is on indefinite paid leave of absence following corruption allegations leveled against him. Ramaphosa says Mchunu is busy preparing to appear before the Police Commission of Inquiry, where he will address the allegations surrounding him.
I know there is a technicality about seeming to have two ministers in the same portfolio. That is a matter that I do believe is going to be resolved within a short space of time. I have directed the Commission to complete its work as quickly as possible. So whatever confusion or period there might be is going to be of a short duration.
At the same time, members of Parliament's ad hoc committee investigating police corruption are ready to get started as early as next week. The National Assembly ad hoc committee investigating the allegations made by KZN Police Commissioner Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi will be meeting on Tuesday as it races against time to conclude its work within 3 months. This week, Parliament named the 18-member ad hoc committee, which is made up of 8 political parties represented in Parliament. Babalo Ndenze has more.
Parliament might be on a lengthy recess, but the multi-party committee is expected to meet during the break from next week. When the committee meets on Tuesday, the first order of business will be electing a chairperson who will most likely come from the ANC. But committee member Lisa Schikkeling says they are raring to go.
But we do look forward to it. I mean, it is going to be a very interesting ad hoc committee, and we really hope that we get clarity for South Africans.
The committee will start its probe in the coming weeks, which will look at the nature and implications of relationships between senior police leadership and certain members of the public, among others. Babalo Ndenze, Eyewitness News.
We shift our focus to this now. Low-cost airline FlySafair says it's ready to return its operations to normal following an end to a strike by some of its pilots. A formal agreement has been signed between the airline's management and trade union Solidarity. FlySafair pilots went on strike 2 weeks ago, demanding salary adjustments and an amended roster system with rest time and leave benefits. The agreement follows several weeks of intensive engagement under the guidance of the CCMA. FlySafair spokesperson Kirby Gordon.
We're pleased to have reached a constructive resolution that allows us all to move forward together. Returning to our full schedule will bring about much needed capacity back to the market, which is essential for restoring fare equilibrium and making travel more affordable again for all South Africans.
In other news now, Chief Justice Mandisa Maya says her incoming Deputy Justice Dunstan Mlambo has demonstrated legal excellence and commitment to justice in his previous role. President Cyril Ramaphosa announced Mlambo's appointment, which comes into effect today. Mlambo, who leaves his role as Gauteng Judge President, was recommended by the Judicial Service Commission. Khomotso Modise has more.
In a statement, Chief Justice Mandisa Maya has welcomed the appointment of Justice Dunstan Mlambo as her deputy, saying he brings experience, steadfast leadership and unwavering dedication to constitutional values. She's noted that Mlambo's appointment follows an interview before the Judicial Service Commission, which involved political parties represented in the National Assembly. Mlambo will work closely with Maya in the second highest position in South Africa's judiciary, a role that Justice Mbuyiseli Madlanga held temporarily until his retirement yesterday. The Chief Justice says the judiciary looks forward to working with Mlambo in advancing the rule of law and safeguarding judicial independence. Khomotso Modise, Eyewitness News.
And in the US, a man who murdered his wife and 2 children with a machete has become the 9th person to be executed in Florida this year. 60-year-old Air Force veteran Edward Zakreski was executed yesterday for the 1994 murders. The Sunshine State's previous record since capital punishment was restored in 1976 was 8 executions. That was back in 2014. No other state has killed more people this year, and 2 more are set to be executed on the 19th and the 28th of this month. A total of 27 men have been put to death in the United States so far in 2025. Gold is trading at $3,295.28 an ounce. The rand is at 18.34 to the dollar, 24.18 to the pound, 20.91 to the euro, and Brent crude oil is at $71.70 a barrel.
Leaving Alex heading towards Midrand, there's an accident seen in the Calvin area, N3 northbound, before the between change, causing more than an hour delay all the way from Modderfontein Road, Kempton Park. Bumper to bumper traffic heading towards Tembisa, R21 northbound between between Atlas Road and the R23 off-ramp, and in Protea Glen, Soweto. Expect about a 20-minute delay on the N12 westbound. This is between the R554 Abu Bakr Drive and the R558.
In your sport, Gus Atkinson takes 5-wicket haul as India collapsed to 224 all out. The MTN 8 quarterfinal between Orlando Pirates and Polokwane City sold out. And Louis Rees-Zammit returns to rugby after leaving the NFL.
It's a fine Friday afternoon in Gauteng today. Temperatures have peaked at highs of between 19 and 21 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour, President Cyril Ramaphosa says he does not plan on having 2 police ministers for a very long time.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app, DSTV channel 856,
92.7
and 106 FM.
A very good afternoon, everyone. It is 8 minutes past 3 on Friday, the 1st of August, first day of a brand new month. This is 702 Drive with me, John Perlman. Wherever you are listening to us in 702 land, welcome to the show. The Fly Safair strike has been settled, but is it settled, or is this just a temporary truce? Have the plans been laid for a long period of much smoother flying? More on that after 4 with Kirby Gordon of Safair and Helgard Cronje of Solidarity. No future turbulence, we hope, but we will find out. Some other things on the go. Today saw clean-up and fix-up crews knocking the Ellis Park precinct into shape. But why does basic city management and maintenance require special efforts like this? We'll put that question and some others to Stephen Dupree from Jozi My Jozi, one of a number of organizations involved in this. We'll meet a young playwright from St. Benedict's School who's written an award-winning play because it's Friday. We will hear from Randall Abrams with Randall's One Song. And because it's Friday, we'll also have our weekly feature, a song, a book, and a dish.
There it is again. There it is again. Swatbo. Oh, baby! It's an absolute classic. He sent him to the shops for bread and milk. Swat boy.
Rugby fans have been enjoying and appreciating the commentary and individual style on Supersport of Paul Stubbs. We'll get to know him better at 20-6 through his choice of a favourite song and book and his memories of food shared with family and friends. We've got all that and a whole lot more on 702 Drive, including breaking news from the roads in our regular traffic updates, and we'll bring you the latest from the markets starting right now. The All Shares fallen sharply today, down around 1,220 points, a drop of 1.25%. There is red everywhere you look, with Richemont down by 4.9%, Sasol by 3.8% and PSG by 3.6%. I said red everywhere, but there is some gold. Gold stocks doing pretty well. Anglo Gold and DRD both up by 2.9%. The rand is trading at 18 rand and 9 cents against the dollar, 3 cents better than this time yesterday. A euro will cost you 20 rand 85. That's a loss of 13. And the rand is currently trading at 24.04 against the pound. Also a small loss there, 4 cents on the downside. Brent crude is off by 11 cents. Always good news to see oil a little bit cheaper, even if it's just 11 cents. Currently trading at $71.59 a barrel. Stephen Krutis joining us with all the details at 4:25. We'll get sport with Tolakele Mganga and Bali Dlamini. You heard her a moment ago, back with the latest news headlines at 3:30. And Karabo Chale is keeping an eye on the roads for you. This is 702 Drive. We're live in the place where you live, and if it's happening in 702 land. You will hear it first, but if you've got something to contribute, either by way of news we haven't heard of, things you need to fill us in, or details you can add, I'd be very interested to know if there are any Fly Safair pilots out there. Maybe you want to tell us exactly how you feel about the settlement that's been reached. And further, in regard to Fly Safair, at the point at which we were talking about the strike right at the beginning, there was things said about the fact that cabin crew are also in negotiations. So perhaps you're a cabin crew member on Fly Safair, and you might have some update on how those talks are going. You cannot fly with pilots alone. Of course, if you don't have pilots, you can't fly at all, unless you get pilots from somewhere else. That is very much water under the bridge, but maybe there's something still to come in regard to cabin crew. Either way, contact us on 072 702 1702 or 011 883 0702. It's 12 minutes past 3.
702.
Let's walk the talk.
So today, as every day, there's lots to talk about, lots to inquire and ask about, and lots to think about. And when it comes to thoughts, we do love spending time on some of those thoughts that really are a little bit random. So let's get into this then. We were talking a little bit earlier about somebody, I can't remember who it was, used the phrase, I know it's expensive, but I just can't resist, avoid. I can't remember what the word used was, but I think it's probably true for many of us. What is that thing for you that is overpriced? You know it's overpriced. It really is a little bit of a stretch, but hey, you just got to have it. I wonder if you've got something like that in your life. I can't think of anything specific in mind, but I'll probably come up to it with something in the course of the day. But if you've got something in that line, please give us a call on 011 883 0702 and 072 702 1702. Costs an arm and a leg, Kabazella, but hey, gonna stretch the budget. What?
Afternoon, John, and on to our 702 family. So for me, it will be a certain coffee brand.
Okay.
So, I try and buy in bulk when there's a special, but then, if you run out, obviously I didn't buy enough bulk. Then you kind of have to just bite the bullet and say, okay, well, cool, I'm going to buy it because that's my one little thing I love in the morning when I wake up is a nice cup of coffee. So for me, it has to be coffee and a specific brand of coffee.
What's wrong with the other brands?
Nah, they just
tried them.
They don't hit the same way for me, And I wouldn't say I'm a coffee snob. You get proper coffee snobs, because mine's out of a bottle. It's the freeze-dried stuff. It is coffee. It's not the chicory.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, that when I buy that, it is like, this is expensive, but it gives me a little bit of pleasure in the mornings.
There's no illicit coffee market like cigarettes, eh?
If you know any markets, do let me know. Drop me a WhatsApp.
Definitely will not do that. It's absolutely against my shame on you for even think. Oh, I thought of it. Sorry, shame on me. Karabo Chale,
Sure.
what's your thing that you stretch the budget for no matter what?
There's two. I'll start with the meat.
Okay.
I love my meat. I can't go a day without having
red meat.
Red meat. Yeah,
Okay.
even chicken, any kind of meat.
Okay.
So I become very grumpy if there's no meat. But when you go to the butchery and you buy, it's like, geez.
Biltong prices as well.
Oh, it's rough out there, eh? But meat is one of those I can't do without. And then the other one is an activity that we do once a month as a family because my son is very competitive. So we go to go-karting once a month. But geez, the price is just for 10 minutes.
As a family, it must
It's
be
like,
expensive.
but we make an effort because, it's fun, the adrenaline rush, and just the whole competition in the family.
Yeah, I'm very glad you raised that because my mind immediately and first went to kind of commodities, food, drink, whatever it might be. But there's so many other things. It might be a bath product, and as you rightly point out, it could be an activity. So Angie says she can't do without Dover Egberts, and Chintan says Krispy Kreme donuts and anything Lotus Biscoff. What is? I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, Biscoff. It's like it's a spread.
Yes.
But how do you describe it? Is it like a caramel spread? It really is nice. I'm just battling to find the words to describe it. But it's a spread in a little bottle that you would get, and you can put it on anything really: pancakes, toast, waffles, you name it.
Well, I've managed to do without it because I had no idea what it was, which is always a good place to start. Walter, DSTV is expensive, but I can't live without it in my household. Leroy, I'm paying Lobola this weekend. That Lobola money, the message is a bit unclear. It's needed. It's an expensive price to start life with the love of my life. Leroy, you and the love of your life, we just wish you every blessing in the weeks and months and years and decades, we hope, that will follow. Expensive, yes. But I think what you're telling me is, whatever the price, I'm doing this thing. And we wish you every possible blessing. Gigi, I have a few things. Le Creuset kitchenware, running shoes, Adidas clothing, and Falca socks. And says there are more, but those are the main ones. Thank you, Gigi. Or Gigi. Give us a call on that on 011 883 0702 072 702 1702. Traffic or traffic jams? Let's find out.
Yeah, it is a busy Friday afternoon, John. At this stage in the Calvin area, there's an accident scene heading towards Midrand. That's leaving Alexandra on the N3 northbound before the Platoon interchange, causing about an hour delay all the way from Modderfontein Road. Also in the Kempton Park area, bumper-to-bumper traffic on this is towards Tembisa R21 northbound between Atlas Road and the R23 off-ramp. Sandton traffic pressure. This is M1 north between Corlett and Marlborough Drive, while in the south, Protea Glen expect about a 20-minute delay on the N12 westbound between the R554 Abu Bakr Drive and the R558. And in Lenasia, traffic heavily backed up on the Golden Highway between the N12 and the R554 Nirvana Drive. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072 702 1702. We are also on X at EWN Traffic.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
702 Drive, these keep coming in. Rebecca says, I cannot fly internationally if I can't get a business class ticket. I'd rather cancel the trip. I've only flown business class twice. Once I was a speaker at a conference and the organizers paid for me to do that one way, I think. And then I got bumped on an overbooked flight. I've no idea why I was bumped up to business class. I have to say I liked it, but I also have to say it's not something that I would spend a lot of money on. I mean, at the moment, I guess it helps to be short. I mean, just to be blunt, my legs don't need as much room as many of my taller friends. And economy, it's a little bit jammed. It's a little bit squashed, but doesn't bother me very much. But I get it. People, it's your money and you decide. This is the thing that I absolutely want to do. And that's the thing I'm going to spend money on no matter what it costs. Give me your version. It can range anywhere from red meat to business class tickets. Keep those coming on 011 883 0702, including delicious spreads that I've never heard of, but I will certainly go and check out. 072 702 1702. It's 20 past 3.
Drive home with John Perlman
On 702. Let's walk the talk.
One of the things people may in the United States be making a choice about based on price, as opposed to the quality, which is undoubted, is South African wine. And this is because we are now facing 30% tariffs. European wine and spirits will be facing a 15% tariff, which gives them an edge already. This is an industry, by the way, that across its entire value chain, I stand to be corrected, but I believe supports around 270,000 jobs. And then, of course, there is the massive attraction to tourists already drawn to the Western Cape, who would go there for all the other reasons that I don't need to state, but would also go there because wine tourism is a fabulous and wonderful thing to do. Beautiful places to stay, extraordinary places to eat, the scenery, etc., etc. So we are in a jam. What kind of jam and how do we deal with it? Michael Fridgen is Professor of Wine at the UCT Business School and a regular guest on our show talking about this extremely important and interesting industry. Michael Fridgen, welcome. And Thanks very much for your time. What have we been selling to the US up to now? Perhaps give us a sense both in terms of proportion of our overall exports, but also has the US been buying at a particular price point?
So it's an interesting question. We have an industry that, in terms of exports, is divided between what is called packaged wine, in other words, wine that is sold in bottle or, if you like, bag in the box, and bulk wine. And the American market has been more premium. So it is probably our fifth most important packaged wine export market, which means that people are paying a premium to know that the wine was bottled at source and therefore is at the upper level of what we export. And I think in that sense, it's not a super price-sensitive market. And the feedback I've had from a number of producers is that they've already had assurances from their importers that they will do their best to help manage this particular glitch crisis, call it what you will, that the 30% in duty is a big hit, but they're not simply going to shut down or tell us we have to give them a 30% discount to maintain the business.
If we do take some knocks, and I guess there will be some damage, I don't think that's avoidable, are there promising other markets that are opening up? We have no shortage of wine, as I understand it, to offer to the rest of the world, but anywhere where you can see the slack being taken up?
So firstly and foremostly, and these are the things we really have to think about, we really do have a growing domestic market. Our producers do need to acknowledge that if you look at the Gauteng market as a perfect example, the increase in wine interest in Gauteng over the last 5 or 10 years has been dramatic. It's much more reflective of the South African demographic than it was 10 or 15 years ago. And you were at WineX, you saw what that looked like.
Absolutely, yeah.
The room is full of people who are learning to love and enjoy wine. So the domestic market will take up some of the slack. And so is the rest of the continent. We are suddenly discovering that the same trend that is transforming the market in Gauteng is reflected certainly in East Africa and West Africa. There is a growth of interest in wine here. So we're on the doorstep of probably the next wine booming market, continentally speaking. That will help. I think there'll be a lot of sympathy in some of the markets we deal with. The big sadness is that our government, which likes to identify itself with the BRICS nations, has done nothing to create a tariff environment favorable for wine exports. The Australian wine industry absolutely lives off the trade deal that they have struck with the Chinese. And when that deal was under pressure post-COVID, because the Australians rightly pointed out that there wasn't a complete explanation from around where COVID came from, and they were penalised. They lost $1 billion Australian dollars worth of wine exports to Australia, which has been restored. And in that gap, the South African government did not move in and strike a deal for exports. So there is an opportunity certainly in Asia. There's an opportunity if the BRICS nations get together and do something. And of course, as I said, there's a domestic and continental opportunity which will certainly take up the American slack.
Good news. Thank you, Michael Fridjon, Professor of Wine in the UCT Business School. Not necessarily all good news, because the point he made at the end there, that the South African government has not moved quickly enough to take advantage of the relationships that ought to be flourishing under BRICS. But good news that there's growth in East Africa, and good news there's growth in the South African market. And it does raise a question that maybe you want to express your views on in more general terms. There were some great calls on Clement's open line today with a number of people saying in regard to the tariffs, well, this is the new reality. We can either wish it away or we can say, right, what's our plan B? And I think there was a listener who said, what is our plan C and what is our plan D? I thought that was a great way of putting it. So Michael Fridjon suggesting a couple of Bs and maybe a C or two in his analysis. But how do you see it? I mean, is this a difficult situation? Undoubtedly. Is this a time of opportunity and new thinking? Well, I think there's a lot of people saying even if we don't recognize it as that, we'd better recognize it soon because it's unlikely to change. Your views, please, on 072 702 1702. It's 26 minutes past 3.
You're with John Perlman
on 702.
Well, let's focus now on something that really caught my attention. There was an effort down in the Ellis Park precinct area, focusing on cleaning up the precinct, improving safety, delivering essential social services to vulnerable residents. Involved in this, the City of Johannesburg, the province, the Church of Scientology, and the broad umbrella organization Jozi My Jozi. Now, there is no doubt that this is work to be admired and work that needs to be done. But let's ask a few more questions about it, particularly in the light of the fact that the Ellis Park precinct was the focus, again, of a concerted effort last year, that coinciding with the Springboks playing the All Blacks at Ellis Park. I went to the match. It was fabulous what had been done. We play again the Springboks at Ellis Park on the 16th of August. So is this all tied up with rugby and making the area look good for rugby? Let's find out, and welcome to the show, Stephen du Preez. He is Inner City Property Precinct Manager and a member of the Jozi My Jozi Steering Committee. Mr. du Preez, welcome and thanks very much for your time. As I said, this is admirable work and important work, but there may be concerns, and I share them, that do we need special efforts every year now to fix up this particular precinct and by implication other areas of the city as well as we head for the G20?
Afternoon, John, and thank you for having me on. So to answer that question, it's not a one-hit wonder,
yes,
so to speak, or what we did last year. You know, we got the precinct right, we got it to a certain level, and I'm glad you got to experience it and to see what the good work is that we did. But what we did is shortly before that, we actually established an improvement district around Troyville and parts of Bertram's, where what we've done is we've created employment for cleaning, for security, for general work in that space, with the idea being that we continue to keep up that level throughout the year and not only for the test match period. So yes, we still have a test match on 16th of August coming up against Australia. But between last year and this year, you know, we've got our 24-hour security in the place. We've got our cleaners that are there 4 days a week to make sure that the public space is well looked after. And the knock-on effect to that is there's been a massive uptick in people wanting to do events and hold events either at the stadium itself or at the old arena that's there. So we're now starting to see a demand. People want to come back into that space to utilize that space outside of the traditional rugby window, so to speak.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So perhaps I'm looking at one test match last year, another one this year, and I'm not seeing what's being done in the gap. And you've set out very clearly, Mr. du Preez, what has happened in the intervening, let's just call it 12 months, give or take a few weeks. My question then is this, though. Do you see, as you do these things, a growing level of involvement and commitment on the one hand, but also competence on the other hand in the city and provincial authorities who really ought to be doing this work themselves?
So we do see a very strong relationship that gets formed when you have a district working with the city. The city like to deal with organized groups. They're very, very good at dealing with the organized groups. When, as a collective, you bring issues and problems to them to address. So from that point of view, as Urban East, which is the improvement district in that space, you know, we take our issues to the city and we get a lot of support and help from them in terms of things that need to be done, whether it be a case of getting a way leave to be able to repair the pavements ourselves, not having to wait for JRA. They're quite amenable to that, provided we meet their requirements. Or whether it be when we have potholes that are formed on certain roads and we urgently need intervention from JRA, that they do come out and they do assist us and they do help. So we have found that there's been a lot more positive feedback and interaction with the city. And in fact, today, Province had their inner city cleanup day today, and today was on Saratoga Avenue under the Charlton Terrace bridges there, right in front of Ponty. that was cleaned up today by the provincial task team. So we are starting to see a lot more interaction from province and local government in terms of wanting to turn around that area.
So I get what you're saying about your initiative, but for the province, for example, to have a clean-up day, I mean, isn't the real question and the real measure of the extent to which this stuff becomes sustainable is, measures that are put in place to make sure the rubbish doesn't pile up in the area? And I realize, Mr. Dupré, we're dealing with intractable problems, and I appreciate too that you're trying to build relationships, but surely there is a moment of reckoning. And perhaps we should be putting this question to the city and the province where, this stuff should not be necessary in this form.
So it's a very interesting point that you raised, John. And we've taken our lessons, the lessons that we've learned, and we've realized it's not just a Johannesburg issue. It's not not even just a South African issue. We've got these business improvement districts worldwide. They're in place. I've been fortunate enough to visit a couple of them, but they all seem to have the same issues that we tend to have, where they've got a prevalence of homelessness, they've got the illegal dumping, they've got, the police aren't doing enough, or the municipality isn't doing enough. So the problems are not synonymous with us. We've just got to understand that there are limitations, like with anything, and it's how do we close the gaps. So if you've got an issue where there's illegal dumping and pick it up aren't there every day to collect that waste, how do we deal with that? We empower our cleaning companies then on one day a week, for instance, to take the rubbish and take it to a dump, for instance.
Right.
So we don't always just rely on the city and put our hands back and say, well, you're not doing your job, it's going backwards. We say, how do we work together? How do we tackle this elephant and eat it one bite at a time and split it up so we all know what we've got to do?
Yes.
It's exactly the same as we're doing now for this test match. There's quite a bit of work outside the precinct that needs to be done now in terms of the access to it from a pothole point of view. And as Josie, we've partnered again with Pothole Patrol,
right.
And we've looked at all the issues from JRA in terms of potholes, and we've divided them. We said we'll look after this batch, you look after that batch, knowing that they couldn't possibly get to it all in the time frame that's left.
Thanks so much, Stephen Dupré, Inner City Property Precinct Manager, member of Josie My Josie. I'd love to get your views on this. I mean, these efforts are fabulous, but I do persistently and consistently worry whether this is providing both the city and the province with a way of not looking squarely in the eye their failings and shortcomings. My view, let's get yours. 072 702 1702, 26 minutes to 4 o'clock. Headlines now with Mbali Dlamini. Good afternoon.
Thanks, John. A very good afternoon. The DA says a parliamentary rebuke and a 10,000 rand fine for Deputy President Paul Mashatile's failure to declare a diamond gift cannot be the end of the saga. The party's chief whip, George Mikalakis, says the sanction by Parliament's Joint Ethics Committee was not harsh enough. He says the circumstances raise more questions about Mashatile's relationship with diamond dealer Louis Liebenberg. Liebenberg and his wife are currently facing corruption charges related to dodgy investments. Lindsay Dendlinger reports.
Yesterday, Parliament's Joint Ethics Committee said it had rejected the Deputy President's excuses for not declaring a diamond gift from Louis Liebenberg because he was waiting for its value to be determined first. The DA's George Mikalakis, who laid the complaint, says Mashatile must be probed about why he or his wife would have received gifts from Liebenberg and whether Mashatile returned the goodwill. Mikalakis says Mashatile is also to still inform Parliament of the value of the diamond, which he says he's since surrendered to the National Prosecuting Authority.
The DA will continue to ask these questions until we have all the answers. The public deserves a Deputy President who is transparent in the declaration of his financial interests.
Mikalakis is also questioning why Mashatile previously failed to disclose ownership of a multi-million rand Cape Town property he had said belonged to his son-in-law, but which has been included in this year's disclosures to Parliament. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News, Parliament.
In efforts to tackle crime and grime in Joburg's inner city, a cleanup and safety drive turned its focus on tackling the Ellis Park precinct in the CBD today. The Gauteng government, in partnership with the city of Joburg and civil movement Jozi My Jozi, launched the program in August last year. Today, various organizations including Pick It Up, Jozi My Jozi, the Environmental Department and JMPD banded together to clean up the busy streets of Saratoga Avenue as well as Joe Slovo Drive. Tandoluhle Ngcobo reports.
The Ellis Park precinct, a site of immense historical significance for South Africa, is the latest focal point of the Gauteng provincial government's CBD Friday revitalization program. The Ellis Park precinct, known globally as the home of the 1995 Rugby World Cup final and a beacon of national unity, has faced challenges with grime and crime in recent years. Jozi My Jozi's Wayne Dawson.
This is one of the most exciting precincts. I love this space because it's like a marriage between the best that the city can offer from a sporting facility point of view, and then Hillbrow, Berea and Yeovil, as previously regarded as the no-go zones. We want to unblock that stigma.
Teams of volunteers and city workers systematically cleaned streets and public spaces, addressing illegal dumping sites and general litter. Tandoluhle Ngcobo, Eyewitness News, Johannesburg.
And retired Deputy Chief Justice Mbuyiseni Madlanga says he pursued law following a mere suggestion by his late father. Madlanga hung up his robe yesterday after spending 12 years at the Constitutional Court. Madlanga was lauded and praised for his service, with NPA head Shamila Batoyi saying he brought more to the Apex Court than just intellectual distinction. Madlanga will now chair a commission of inquiry which is looking into corruption within the police service. Speaking to 702's Bongani Bingwa this morning, Madlanga explained what inspired his love for the law.
When I was in my matric year, I had no idea what I wanted to do. And my father wrote me a letter in which he asked if I would not want to be a judge. And he specifically mentioned that someday, and whether I would not want to do law. I did not even have to think about it. I just accepted my father's suggestion. The following year, I registered for law.
It's a fine Friday afternoon in Gauteng today. Temperatures have peaked at highs of between 19 and 21 degrees.
Kempton Park expect about a 30-minute delay towards Tembisa on the R21 northbound between the R24 merge and the R23 Benoni off-ramp. Edenville also expect huge delays. R24 westbound driving into Bedfordview. That's between Edenville Road and the Kilulis interchange. And in Calvin, traffic remains heavily backed up on the N3 northbound from London Road all the way to the Patloo interchange due to an earlier accident.
The top story in EWN. The DA says a parliamentary rebuke and a 10,000 rand fine for Deputy President Paul Mashatile's failure to declare a diamond gift cannot be the end of the saga.
Bongani Bingwa, 702 Breakfast.
Weekday mornings, 6 to 9.
Deal or no deal. It's late in the day that 30% levy on South African exports to the US comes into effect tomorrow. We don't have a deal, do we, Minister?
No, we don't. They are unable to confirm what the announcement would be, and they would encourage us to raise up possibly an enhanced proposal to the United States government. It would be processed by the White House, but at this point they are unable to say what the final decision would be.
Minister Pakstow.
Bongani Bingwa, 6 to 9.
On 702.
To every 702 lander who laced up, showed up and walked the talk with us this past Sunday, thank you. The 702 family loved every moment, walking, talking and connecting with you on the route. You made the 2025 702 Walk the Talk one for the memory books. We can't wait to do it all again with you next year. Here's to you, 702 landers, and here's to the 2025 702 Walk the Talk, hosted by Freedom Park in the city of Tshwane.
Life is full of moments. Some are small.
Like me, Dad.
And some are big.
Like a Tyrannosaurus Rex.
For all those moments, there's the new Haval H6 SUV. With upgraded style, a refined interior, and new innovative features, it's built for big moments.
And the little ones.
Discover the new GWM Haval H6 from only 6,799 per month. Visit gwm.co.za for T's and C's and to book a test drive. GWM, go with more.
At Bright, we don't just provide business insurance, we insure your business's
future success.
Because your business is so much more than desks and computers and equipment, which is why we use our specialist expertise to tailor solutions for each client differently to ensure what's really important. So insure your businesses.
Financial security,
with Bright today. Contact your broker or go to brightinsure.co.za to find out more. Bright, approach risk with purpose. Bright is a licensed insurer and authorized FSP.
Mzansi, have you bought your Powerball ticket for the staggering 113 million rand estimated jackpot this Friday? Walala wasala. Play Powerball for the estimated 113 million rand jackpot today for your chance at winning life-changing millions. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120*7529# for USSD. Panda, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years old to play responsibly. eTuba is a proud operator of the National Lottery.
It's the final days of the Dial-A-Bed annual super sale with up to 33% off. Don't miss out on SA's best bed deals. The Sealy Celebration Queen Set is now only 8,999 and the 40 Winks Active Zone Queen Set is reduced to 11,999. Plus, get next day delivery on our best sellers. Dial-A-Bed. Sleep for life.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
Good afternoon, Bro Johns. Linda here in Pretoria. I drive a 4.0 Pajero. Yeah, that thing, high petrol like nobody's business. A full tank of it, you can buy a new Polo with it. I can't live without that thing. I love it to bits.
Hi, John. Makeup artist here, talking about things you can't do without. As a makeup artist, there's certain brands and products that I just cannot do without in my makeup kit. So yes, it'll break the bank, and yes, it'll cost me 2 arms and 2 legs, but they're just some things you have to have. Thanks so much for a great show. Lynn Hoff.
Something that stretches my budget that I can't give up is really good coffee beans. Financially, I was checking the budget and I'm not sure that I can afford to spend that much on coffee beans a month. But emotionally, I'm not sure that I can afford not to buy good coffee every month.
Yeah, it really is interesting. Please keep those coming in. If you've just joined us and you're wondering what those messages were about, just to remind you, I asked the question that even in tough times, and these are tough and have been tough for many, many people for many, many years, what is that thing that you will always stretch your budget to buy? The thing that has become expensive, but you just feel you need to have. Also got some interesting feedback, by the way, in response to our interview with Stephen Dupree from Josie My Josie. They've been doing a big cleanup today in the area around Ellis Park. The Ellis Park Improvement District, I think, is what it's now been designated as, but also working on some of the areas that are part of the approach to the stadium, depending, of course, on what direction you're traveling in. There's a test match against the Wallabies on the 16th of August. And this response from Serenoso, who says, John, I drive past Ellis Park every day. The work inside the stadium precinct is commendable. But when driving Joe Slovo, more work needs to be done. Leaking water and sewage stream along the road. Potholes are filled with bricks. I recall last year, the robots that was not working for over a year were repaired in preparation for the All Blacks. 3 weeks later, a few robots were out and it took a long time to replace those. It's a similar cycle every time there's a test match. Once it's all done, outside the precinct is left to fail and not repaired. Maybe you want to give us your feedback on these big cleanup initiatives, whether it's in that particular area of Joburg or maybe in other cities. Do they make a mark? Do they make a difference? Stephen Dupree was arguing that they've put in place systems and hired people to actually work on sustaining things year round. But maybe you live in a different part of the city or indeed in another city and you've got your own experience to share. I would love to hear about that from you. It's 4:45.
EWN Sport.
Tolakele Cricket Awards, who won? And maybe you've got a view on who should have. Good afternoon.
Afternoon, John. Well, Nonkululeko Mlaba and Keshav Maharaj were named the Women's and Men's Player of the Year, respectively, at the CSA Awards. That was one of 4 accolades won by Mlaba, including Women's T20 International Player as well as Players Player of the Year. Other winners included Otno Bartman, Andrik Nokia and Captain Temba Bavuma, who were named Men's International Newcomer, Men's T20 International Player, as well as Test Player of the Year, respectively. Switching over to the Oval, where Gus Atkinson took a 5-wicket haul as England had India all out for 224 in their first innings. That's on day 2 of the 5th and deciding test. In response, the home side are currently 154 for the loss of 3 to trail by 70 runs. Batting is Joe Root on 14 alongside Harry Brook on 6. The English are without Chris Stokes for the remainder of this game. That's after he suffered a shoulder injury. And while they have a substitute in his place, he's only permitted to field but not to bat or bowl. Over to the MTN 8, where the PSL have confirmed that tomorrow's quarterfinal between defending champions Orlando Pirates and Polokwane City at the Orlando Stadium is sold out. For Tlongwe, he says rise and shine, go into the game wanting to end the Buccaneers' 3 years of dominance in this competition.
Yeah, I would say it's a great feeling, especially playing against the defending champions. But trust me, it's not going to be easy. It's going to demand a lot from us. But I wouldn't say we're not under pressure. We want to win. I mean, we can't just come there just to add numbers. And also, I think we have what it takes to come out victorious on the day. But also, I think the most pressure is on them. And we got to use that.
Bafana will host their 2026 FIFA World Cup qualifier against Nigeria at the Free State Stadium on the 9th of September, just days before Hugo Broos's Chargers will go up against Lesotho in an away qualifier at the same stadium. And Louis Rees-Samit has announced that he's leaving the NFL and returning to rugby after spending 18 months chasing his career. The former Wales winger was part of the Jacksonville Jaguars squad, but he didn't make a regular season appearance either with the Jaguars or the Kansas City Chiefs, where he also had a spell, but he missed out on a place in their squad. Tolagele Mganga, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
Okay, rush hour always earlier on a Friday. And do we have a lot of Kempton Park problems on a Friday? Karabo Chale, or am I perhaps imagining things?
Well, that R21 route between Tembisa and OR Tambo International Airport is usually pretty busy. So like this afternoon through Kempton Park heading towards Tembisa, expect about a 30-minute delay, John. That's on the R21 northbound between the R24 merge and the R23 Benoni off-ramp. Edenville, also huge delays on the R24 westbound from Edenville Road all the way to the Kilulis interchange. Calvin, traffic remains sluggish. This is on the N3 northbound between London Road and the Patrol interchange due to an earlier accident. Santon, also bumper-to-bumper traffic on the M1 northbound from Corlett all the way to Marlborough Drive. In Protea Glen, expect about a 20-minute delay on the N12 westbound from the R554 Abu Bakr Drive all the way to the R558. Also, Lenasia traffic congested on the Golden Highway between the N12 and the R554 Nirvana Drive. And finally, in Turina, there's bumper-to-bumper traffic on the Golden Highway between Chris Honey Road and the N1. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702. We are also on X at EWN Traffic.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
Still to come on 702 Drive, we're going to hear about a grade 12 student at St. Benedict's College who's written an award-winning play, directed it as well. That's coming up in just a moment. But Tolakele, we were just talking about things that are expensive, have become more expensive, but there are those things where you say, you know what, I know it costs not necessarily an arm and a leg, but maybe a hand and a foot. But hey, life's too short, I work too hard, gonna keep buying it.
John, that's my favorite motto. I have 2 things. The first one is a mocha with almond milk. I know I could just go for normal milk, but I've cut out sugar, so that almond zestiness just helps my coffee consumption. And every month, I'm going to get me a mani and a pedi. I don't care what my budget looks like. I feel much better when my nails are done.
So I have only had 2 pedicures in my life.
Go again, John.
The most recent one was on Saturday. That's because I had granddaughters out from New York, and what they really wanted to do, can you believe it, in South Africa, the most exciting thing was they're going to go to a spa for the first time. We are also taking them to the Kruger Park, more to the point, just to localize their experience. But I then swam in a pool, and I think some of the benefits of the pedicure might have gone south.
John,
should I have worn socks or flippers,
no.
maybe?
Sometimes the experience is learning that not all nail polishes are the same.
No, I did. Oh.
Yes, because you have to go to sometimes the spas don't buy the best quality, so that's why it happens so quickly that they deteriorate. But you have to go to another spa and try it out again. And if that one doesn't work, you find another spa. Yes, that's how you test it out.
Okay, well, I've had 2 in my life, so I'm due for the next one. I'll let you know in 2026 how the experiment is going. It's 9 minutes to 4. This is 702 Drive.
John Perlman
on 702.
3 to 6 p.m.
Well, one of the highlights of the creative calendar for South African schools is called the Festival of Excellence in Dramatic Arts. It's a coveted prize. It's a hotly contested competition. And this year, St. Benedict's College has come out as the winner in a large number of categories. I'll go through the awards they won. Best Actor, Best Supporting Actor, Best Director, Best Special Effects, Best Stage Crew. I might run out of time. Now, I think I've got through all of them. And, of course, they were also acknowledged for coming up with the Best Original Play. This is a festival of original work. And we welcome then to 702 Drive, a grade 12 learner at St. Benedict's College. Umulimo Pesha was the writer and director of a play called The Other Side of the House that won all those accolades and, of course, heaped great honor on the school, St. Benedict's. Umulimo, welcome. It's great to have you with us on the show.
Thank you for having me.
So, writing this play, we'll get into the subject matter in a moment. It sounds like very serious material that you covered. Did you sit down and write it through one frenzied night? Did you disappear into an empty room at school and jot things down? What was your writing process like?
First it was more or less the idea of it. I just had to first think of a concept of more or less how could I honestly portray mental health as honestly as I possibly can.
Yes.
And it was just I just had to devise it the entire time. So it was just small stints or small ideas going throughout the course of the year. I started this last year in May, and it was just, maybe listen to one song, get an idea there, maybe read a play, get an idea there, and then it was just the build-up of things. And by October, I had the script ready.
Writing for theatre must be a very particular kind of challenge. It's not as if you're writing a short story where you could at least depend, or a novel, on our imagination, but you've got to be thinking staging, dialogue, costumes. I mean, is this something that was more difficult than you expected, or did it flow better than perhaps you'd feared?
It flowed better than perhaps I feared, because I think more than anything, during the directing process, I knew what I wanted on stage, and I knew what I wanted to see, what I wanted to hear. So, I mean, just to explain my vision and for it to be executed, I wouldn't say that was the most difficult thing, but I think it's just the skill comes from the easiness comes from explaining my vision as best as I could.
Tell us then, if you can, in summary, The Other Side of the House. I've looked at a brief description that I'm not going to read because I'm sure it doesn't do justice. The story and what anyone who watched it might have got from it. In summary, if you can.
So the story is set in one person's mind, more or less. We're trapped inside a memory where the person, I'm just going to keep it PG for the radio,
yes.
But the person witnessed something traumatic happen to his mother, more or less, and it's on the basis of gender-based violence. So in that memory, in his mind, we're watching that memory unfold, and he's kind of a thought on stage, and he has another counterpart of himself that's telling him that he can overcome this memory, that he can be bigger than what he is currently. And what the other side of the house is, it's more or less my explanation on mental health, or my views on it. That I think all of us as humans, we all have some things or some experiences that we've gone through that we can't necessarily vocalize because they're too painful. But there's always that option inside of us that we can recover, whether it's inside of us or externally, that we can recover from. And that's where it's the other side of the place set inside the house, which is in his mind. So it's the other side of kind of his traumas, or the other side of his mind, more or less. I think that's what I played on it a little bit.
So you had to direct this. How difficult is to direct? And I guess that is the challenge, but let's be clear, you won the prize for Best Director, so you clearly did it extremely well. But what was it difficult? Because Ditiro Simelane won Best Actor, Sikolake Manaswe won Best Supporting Actor, so clearly you connected with them as well. But you had a vision. You not only had to convey that to them, but they had to then bring your vision to the stage and to life for an audience.
Yeah. I think it was, I wouldn't try to be egotistical about it, but I was blessed to have the best cast ever. I think Ditiro and Siko, I couldn't have asked for better castmates. They just executed my vision, and they knew the depth of what they were playing. They knew how significant it was, and they knew that they were possibly telling the story of another South African that probably witnessed gender-based violence.
Yes.
You know, they honed that story in. I think the entire cast as a collective, from the staff down to the backstage crew, they knew the weight of what the story were telling, and they just executed it to the T. So I would say my job was relatively simple. I just had to explain my vision and give them the details that I needed, you know.
No, sorry to cut across you. Has theatre always been an interest?
Theatre. I honestly started theatre in grade 9. I think my teachers back then introduced me to it, and it sparked my interest. And since then, I've just been a huge theatre fanatic. I've just been reading plays, Tennessee Williams, August Wilson. It's just been a different part of me, in all honesty.
Are you thinking of making it a career, or too early to say?
Hopefully, I think more than making it a career, I hope I get to impact people. I think that's what I strive to do with the stage. I think all great plays have that kind of impact on whether it's society or mental health or in general. So at the death of a salesman or the glass menagerie, I think more than a theatre or an actor or performer, I just hope to impact people the most truthful way I can.
Well, you certainly have impacted a huge number of people, your colleagues, the cast, and clearly the people who are judging it, and an audience on finals night hugely impressed with your work. Many congratulations, Umolimo Pesha, a grade 12 student at St. Benedict's College, writer and director of the award-winning play The Other Side of the House. And at the end of theatre productions, there's always a bow to be taken by everybody, a bow, I think, earned by Michelle Douglas, St. Benedict's College head of drama. They've excelled in this as well as a school. Wonderful stuff. Look out for the name, Umolimo Pesha, and some of the other actors. Let's see what they do in the years to come. I'm expecting it will be special. 702 Drive.
Africa Milani.
Weekday mornings,
4 to 6.
How are exporters based in South Africa exporting manufactured goods and services to America going to be affected by this tariff hike?
Essentially, what's going to happen is that the goods that we have been exporting to the United States, oftentimes under AGOA, fairly duty-free, are now going to attract 30% tariff. And what that's going to mean is that's going to make them less competitive in the United States market.
Dr. Dale McKinley, political economist, reflecting, of course, on those sweeping tariff changes that are coming in from Trump administration, including South Africa being slapped with 30%.
Africa Milani.
4 to 6 on 702.
Don't miss Busk Aid's one and only Joburg appearance in 2025. The remarkable, versatile and world-renowned Busk Aid Soweto String Ensemble will be performing a wide range of popular favorites from classical to amapiano. They'll be joined by South Africa's charismatic diva Sibongile Mngoma singing jazz, blues and rock songs. The concert takes place at the Linda Auditorium on Sunday the 3rd of August at 3 p.m. Book now at Quicket.
More weekend wins are on the way. The Hollywood Bets Weekend Bonus Bonanza puts you in line to secure a sensational share of 400,000 Rand in exhilarating bonus bets. Gear up to go on an exciting adventure packed with more booming weekends when you log in and bet 2 Rand or more on selected pragmatic play, Playtech and Habanero slots. Blazing bonus bounties await, so make sure you log in and bet now.
T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. Hollywood Bet supports responsible gambling. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counselling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp help to 076 675 0710.
If you want to know about the heart and art of jazz, look no further than the Standard Bank Joy of Jazz Festival, a grand ensemble of over 50 world-class acts across 4 stages for 3 whole days. That's right, from the 26th, 27th and 28th of September. The Sandton Convention Center will be demure and sophisticated as the fine Standard Bank Joy of Jazz 2025 takes you deep into the heart, the art and splendor of jazz. Take me there. Book your seat via Ticketmaster now.
This is EWN.
Government works on interventions to cushion the US tariffs, and ANC gears up for NEC meeting following a number of delays. Good afternoon, I'm Bali Dlamini. President Cyril Ramaphosa says government is working on a set of interventions to cushion the blow of the harsh US tariffs on local businesses. The announcement on possible aid for South African exporters comes as Pretoria continues to negotiate with Washington for more favorable.
Says some trading partners have agreed to or on the verge of agreeing to meaningful trade and security commitments with the US, signaling their sincere intentions to permanently remedy the trade barriers. President Cyril Ramaphosa says while horse trading continues behind closed doors, South Africa is already considering interventions for affected industries.
Our objective really is to save jobs. We want to preserve the jobs of those companies that are going to be adversely affected.
Agriculture, especially citrus and the auto sector, are among those expected to take the hardest knock, while some products remain on a list of exemptions, including some mining commodities. Nogukhanya Mdambo, Eyewitness News.
Acting Police Minister Feroz Kachalia says officers cannot fight crime with unchecked violence. He was responding to questions over whether he supports police implementing a shoot-to-kill policy. Kachalia was sworn in as a minister today at the Union Buildings in Pretoria. Tabiso Koba reports.
In the last financial year, police in KwaZulu-Natal killed 187 people during the commission of their work, the most of any province. These tactics have divided opinion among the public and the people in the law enforcement sector. Acting Police Minister Feroz Kachalia says officers must protect themselves in the field when dealing with violent criminals. However, this must be done within the law.
We're not a banana republic. We have a history in this country of the abuse of policing power. We all know about that. And after our constitutional transition, we've had incidents which we as a country should think about.
Kachalia mentioned the death of Andries Tatane and the Marikana massacre.
The message from the minister cannot be what is required to fight crime is unbridled, unlawful violence.
Kachalia says part of his mandates will be to ensure police are properly equipped to fight and investigate crime. Tabiso Koba, Eyewitness News.
The ANC says this weekend's National Executive Committee meeting is not about reviewing the Government of National Unity. Its Secretary-General, Fikile Mbalula, says discussion should not be about doing away with the GNU, adding that should it be raised, it will be discussed. The ANC and DA, the bigger parties in the National Coalition, have had a series of public spats which saw the budget proposal being presented at least 3 times, with members in both parties expressing a desire to walk away from the GNU. Tsidi Madia reports.
A packed NEC agenda awaits the ANC this weekend, which will include an assessment of the GNU and ways to strengthen the coalition government. The ANC will wade through issues including the US tariffs, the state of local government, and a move by its alliance partner, the SACP, to go at it alone in next year's municipal polls. ANC Secretary-General Fikile Mbalula.
We have met with the SACP, and what then do we need to do as the ANC with regard to the response we are getting from the SACP, which in the main, it is the response that says no retreat, no surrender.
Mbalula says 2 Integrity Commission reports will also be tabled tomorrow. However, none will speak to embattled Police Minister Senzo Mchunu. Tsidi Madia, Eyewitness News, on Monday.
Taxi Association Codeta has promised to tighten its grip on the screening of its taxi drivers as one of them stands accused of the murder of a child in Kailicha. Odwa Jack and his girlfriend Noktula Majeseni were arrested last week after the body of 7-year-old Lolita Kowa was found at a dump site. She was last seen playing with Majeseni's daughter a day before, and when Lolita did not return, her mother reported her missing. Ntutuzelo Nene has more.
The state says the couple was linked to the murder after bloodstains believed to be that of the deceased child were found at their house and inside a taxi driven by Odwa Jack. Codeta's Tobile Ndwalaza says such characters give the organization a bad name and won't be tolerated.
We are not going to allow anyone, including Odwa, a driver in our taxis anymore. Now we are going to screen everyone. That's what we're going to do.
The state is opposing the couple's release on bail, and the case has been postponed for the verification of their alternative address. Their home has been burned down allegedly by angry residents. Butuzelo Nene, Eyewitness News in Kailicha.
And France is set to suspend its program to receive Palestinians from Gaza. All who have entered the country will now undergo a second screening as the country investigates the circumstances behind how a student accused of sharing anti-Semitic posts was allowed into the country. Officials now say the female student will have to leave France after her accreditation was revoked over her problematic online posts. The student allegedly arrived in France on the 11th of July on a scholarship based on academic excellence after undergoing security checks. The French Interior Ministry has demanded the account attributed to the student be closed down. Gold is trading at $3,295.28 an ounce. The rand is at 18.36 to the dollar, 24.16 to the pound, 20.91 to the euro, and Brent crude oil is at $71.70 a barrel.
Kempton Park, you can still expect about a 30-minute delay. That's heading towards Tembisa on the R21 northbound. Between the R24 merge and Pomona Road. Edenvale traveling into Bedfordview, expect huge delays. R24 westbound from Edenvale Road to the Kilulis interchange, and in Santon traffic pressure on the M1 northbound from Caller Drive all the way to Marlborough Drive.
In your sport, Gus Atkinson takes 5-wicket haul as India collapsed to 224 all out. The MTN 8 quarterfinal between Orlando Pirates and Polokwane City sold out. And Louis Rees-Zammit returns to rugby after leaving the NFL.
A partly cloudy Saturday in store for Gauteng tomorrow. Johannesburg dropping to an overnight low of 5 degrees, peaking at 16. Pretoria 6 and 18, and Vereeniging 2 and 17 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour, President Cyril Ramaphosa says government is working on a set of interventions to cushion the blow of the harsh US tariffs on local businesses.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
7:02.
Drive home with John Perlman.
John Perlman, 3 to 6 p.m.
On 92.7 and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
702 Drive, welcome to the show. It's good to have you with us on this Friday. I hope you've got a good weekend lined up if you're already heading home, contributing to the busier and earlier than usual rush hour that we always get on a Friday. Well, don't worry, we'll make sure that we guide you through that as best as we possibly can. As I always say on a Friday, anything you're celebrating that you want to celebrate with the 702 family, even just by telling us, hey, I'm getting married this weekend or whatever it might be. I'm performing live before an audience as a pianist or a stand-up comic, whatever it might be. Just drop us a note and let us know. I'm always keen to know how people are celebrating the end of the working week. Coming up on the show, the Fly SAFE strike is over. Just would like to understand better the terms of the agreements reached and whether this kind of settles things for a good period of time. Two guests on that. Kirby Gordon joining us from Fly SAFE, where he is Chief Marketing Officer, and Helgat Cronje, joins us from Solidarity, Deputy General Secretary of the union that was representing the pilots at SAFAir involved in this dispute. Coming up after 5, a song, a book and a dish, Paul Stubbs, rugby commentator who's been really capturing people's ears, I think, and imagination on Supersport will be my guest on our feature where we look at the way in which people choose a song, a book, and talk about food as a way of exploring different aspects of their personality. That's a 20 to 6. Randall's one song is there for you at 10 to 5. We asked you about expensive things that you just could not afford, but somehow found a way to find the money for. Those things that you simply cannot do without, despite the rising cost. And some of you as well commenting on those efforts to help government fix up areas of Joburg. Ellis Park very much in the spotlight today. A few of you have got thoughts on that. Let's take a listen.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
Hi, John and the team. For me, it's a butter, and it's a butter, the real butter. And now my kids, they understand the difference between a margarine and the butter. Most of the young generation, they don't know the difference and the importance or the tastiness of a real butter. So the second one, it's a braai. I used to braai almost 2 days or 1 day per week, but now I only do it once. I like my braai. And the thing about the coffee, I don't know why people they are so choosy in terms of coffee. They will want this name and that name. But if you look at it deeply, if they go to the coffee shop, they don't specify the brand. They just drink it as long as it's coming from a good barista. So I don't know what is the fuss about the coffee, but the butter, I understand. Enrique, thank you. Bye.
Afternoon, Dr. John. It's Lebo in Rhodoport. I have to agree with Kabazela. For me, it's coffee. People consider the brand that I take. For some people, they consider it expensive, but it's not. It's something that I would not compromise on. And the second one, it's hiking. I love hiking, and hiking gear is very, very expensive. But you know what? Because I love it, it's something that I'm willing to spend money on. Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, I love at the end of that voice note throwing in an activity as well, because right at the beginning of the conversation, Karabo Chale, who'll give you the traffic in a moment, by the way, was saying that there's that family activity that is something that he will always protect and preserve as something that they just are going to do, even if times are tight. On the coffee thing, don't understand why people, prefer particular brands and are fussy about coffee. I guess the bottom line is, yep, we don't understand. I mean, I'm not fussy about coffee, probably because I don't drink it. I am sort of quite particular about wine. I'm interested in it. And I guess that's how we all are. There is that thing that we care about and really want to get the very best of it. It's 14 minutes past 4.
You're with John Perlman
on 702.
Some of you may recall that yesterday at the end of the show, Monday to Thursday, we always pick out a musical theme and invite you to send some music. And the question we asked yesterday was, what is the song that represents or reflects what kind of day you've had? And I got this message from Lindelani, who said, I've been having a horrible day stroke life, and an emoji that reflects that. I am a female Uber driver, and I'm just not making enough money to even take my son to school, let alone cover my car installments. This was the song, she said, that reflected what kind of day life she'd had. Long Day by Amy Winehouse. So that ought to have been that, but it wasn't, because about an hour ago, I got this message from Lindelani, and here is what she said. Oh my goodness, John, what are the chances that a lady I picked up today in my Uber related to me a story she heard on 702 about a struggling female Uber driver and how she was touched by her story. I told her it was me, and we were both pleasantly surprised by the coincidence. She shared with me her struggles as a single mom and how she's overcome, and that I too will indeed overcome these difficult financial challenges. Thank you, John, for sharing my story. It was by no accident that my first Uber client of the day happened to hear my story yesterday and give me such hope and encouragement. And all I can say is thank you, Lindelani. Thank you to the passenger whose name we don't know. And we often talk about the 702 family and the power of that family and how that power is made up of what seemed to be at the time small interactions, small acts of kindness, small acts of empathy that can make a difference. So, yeah, thank you to both of you for sharing this story and for, in fact, taking those actions that, for me at least, make it a wonderfully powerful expression of what we do call the 702 family and its power. Made my day, I have to say. 16 minutes past 4.
EWN Traffic.
Well, traffic never makes your day, but Karabo Chale does his level best to make your day a little bit easier. But you warned us about Kempton Park, and it's still happening there, huh?
Yes, it looks like there's an accident scene there, John. It's not yet clear. So if you're on that route, please light me up. Let me know what's going on there. You can WhatsApp me on 072-702-1702 and shed some light there. Or you can even tweet. We are also on X, where you can tweet us at EWN Traffic. There's those delays. Kempton Park, about a 30-minute delay towards Tembisa on the R21 northbound between the R24 merge and Pomona Road. Edenville also expect huge delays traveling into Bedford View. That's the R24 westbound from Edenville Road all the way to the Gilulis interchange. Calvin, traffic remains a bit sluggish on the N3 northbound from London Road to the between change due to an earlier accident which has been cleared there. Soweto traffic is heavily backed up. This is on Chris Honey Road opposite Barra taxi rank in Protea Glen, Soweto. Still expect about a 20-minute delay. N12 westbound from the R554 Abu Bakr Drive all the way to the R558 Lenasia. Also traffic congested on the Golden Highway between the N12 and the R554 Navona Drive. And finally, in Chirina, bumper traffic on the Golden Highway between Chris Honey Road and the N1. I'll have your next Eyewitness News traffic update just after 4:30.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
Well, it's been a difficult time for pilots, for the airline Fly SAF Air, and I think it's fair to say difficult time for people flying. Prices have been pushed up by the relative scarcity of availability of flying options, but we do have a settlement. The Fly SAF Air strike is over. So let's understand better what exactly has been agreed upon. Kirby Gordon is my first guest, Chief Marketing Officer at Fly SAF Air. Mr. Gordon, obviously this is good news, but if I were to ask you, what have you as Fly SAF Air learned from the strike? Are there some things that you might have done differently? Good afternoon.
Afternoon, John. Yeah, no, look, I think if anyone ever professed to go through an experience like this and not learn out of it, we should be asking some questions. So there certainly are, through the process, a number of learnings that we've taken out, and I think you've outlined, much of what the realities are in your opening. It's a very difficult position. I mean, I think it's not a situation that any employee or employer would seek to find themselves in, and obviously it stands to reason that everyone feels very strongly about their relative positions, but there really are no winners at the end of the day.
So in the course of conversations we spoke to you, we spoke to Helgat Kroenier from Solidarity, who'll be joining us shortly to give us their take on things. The one impression I got from speaking to both of you was that communication between the two of you wasn't the best. Would that be a fair assessment, A? And if it was, do you think that you've opened up some channels, built some bridges that weren't there before, but that might serve you well going forward?
I think that is a fair assessment. I think that is a reality in any negotiation, is that communication can be a challenge. I think there were a number of aggravating circumstances along the way as well that also need to be borne in mind. And, as with any negotiation, John, it's about finding the central point, right? I mean, there are two very kind of polar positions that need to converge, and ultimately that's the process that we were guided through very capably, I might add, by the CCMA, who were wonderful, bedfellows in the process, and that's ultimately what had to happen.
I want to better understand something. I mean, I have a couple of Fly Safair bookings, one for next week and the other for the week after, and both of those I got notification of a time rescheduling. Is that a general operational change that you're making, discontinuing certain flights, or was that prompted by, because I'm sure I'm not the only person in this position, and our listeners would be interested to hear. Was that prompted by the dispute, or is this a reordering of your flight program that is unrelated?
No, this was prompted by the dispute, John. So in order to continue operations, we had to scale down on the number of flights that we were operating because we obviously had fewer pilots to do so with. And so what we had started doing is, well, in advance of departures, we would look at the number of flights that were operating, or look at the layout of the flights, and effectively combine flights. So you would have found if there were two flights departing, say, from Johannesburg to Durban within an hour of one another, and both of them at that point, because it was far ahead, were about half full, we would then combine those into a single flight, and obviously then only require, one set of crew to operate that. So we'd been quite proactive in trying to do that, and obviously focusing on doing that earlier rather than later, so that we could give customers advance notice, and also obviously before the flights were too full. And so those changes have been made to the schedule into next week, as you pointed out with your own bookings, and unfortunately not beyond the 12th, which is when the operations will be back up to their full capacity.
Kirby Gordon, thank you. Joining us from Fly Safair, Chief Marketing Officer at Fly Safair. Now, Helgaat Cronje, as I mentioned, Deputy Secretary General of Solidarity. Mr. Cronje, welcome, and thanks very much for your time. You didn't get everything you were asking for. Fly Safair is saying no winners. What did your members say when you brought the deal to them?
Look, I mean, the overwhelming majority of them voted for the deal. I think what's important to mention is that the eventual proposal and settlement was a proposal that was made by the CCMA. They call it the mediator's proposal.
Right.
So they basically took the last position of the union and the last position of the company and sort of positioned something in the middle where they feel a settlement is possible, which means it's at the absolute middle ground. If parties don't accept that offer, the CCMA walks away and they are left alone again to try and resolve the issue. So it's sort of the middle point, and I tend to agree that there's no winners in such a process.
You talk of the middle point, but at the risk of sounding pedantic, they offered 5.7. You asked for 10.5, 6% with small increases over the next 4 years. Doesn't sound like the middle to me. That sounds very close to the original Fly Safair offer.
Yes, no, I fully agree. If you only consider the salary increases,
okay.
As we've explained earlier, that a large part of this dispute was the roster dispute. And the protections that the pilots wanted in terms of the open roster systems to ensure that parts of their lifestyle and their work-life balance is protected. And what basically happened is, I think one of the parts that we demanded was a weekend off per month, which we couldn't get and couldn't be accommodated in the system. They agreed to one 60-hour weekend every 6 weeks at least, and a minimum of 9 per year. And I think the important part of this whole thing is, Mr. Gordon, in another interview on this specific radio station, mentioned, what we demand was already implemented in terms of the system, and it's very reasonable demands. That's why they implemented them. But the important part is Safair wasn't willing to put that into writing and into an agreement that protects the pilots. And I think that's what we've achieved. The sad part, however, is these things were on the table in February already, but the pilots had to go out on a 12-day strike to get the employer to sign that into an agreement, things that they viewed as reasonable and already implemented into a system. But it took the pilots a 12-day strike to get them to implement that.
Yeah, and massive disruption to the populace and the clients. Any turbulence ahead on the cabin crew? I don't know if this was something I read or heard you say on another media platform, Mr. Cronje, but I think it was in my first conversation with you that those negotiations are underway. First of all, if I'm wrong, put me right. But if I'm correct on that, what's the lie of the land on that? I know that Solidarity is not representing, as I recall, those workers, but presumably you've got you very, very well tuned into that.
Yeah, look, we don't represent this, so I can't comment on the details. But Solidarity represented the cabin crew in the past, and those negotiations usually aren't any easier than the ones we've just had. So, I mean, yeah, it's difficult to comment. I don't know the details. I don't know the specific demands, but essentially, I know those are difficult negotiations as well. And I think they've got a long road to go.
And okay, so that hasn't been settled. And just a final question. I mean, I put it to, and you were listening to my conversation with Kirby Gordon. What have you guys learned? Have you got perhaps better channels of communication, a couple more bridges between yourselves and the employer? I mean, how would you look back on the upside of something that probably didn't have many upsides?
Look, I'm not sure where the bridges were built in settling the dispute. I think what we do know is, we've got a sense where the relationship between the pilots and the employer is. Yesterday, when we were drafting and finalizing these agreements, it just became clear how bad the relationship is and the lack of trust. I mean, the way in which the pilots wanted us to go back to each specific clause and make sure that it's bulletproof, it's not something that we see. And we do hundreds of these agreements in a year.
Yes.
And it's something that stood out for me, So there's a real work that lies ahead, and SAFE would really need to reconsider the way that they go about labor relations, because the settlement is a good thing. But it's not going to keep pilots at SAFE, and it's not going to keep pilots in South Africa. The relationship needs to be rebuilt. Otherwise, those pilots are going to leave.
Helgaard Cronje, thank you very much. Deputy Secretary General at the Trade Union Solidarity, 27 minutes past 4.
EWN Business.
Stephen Critters, day one of a new tariff regime. I don't know if that explains what seemed to me to be quite a sharp fall in the all-share today, but you've got the overview. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you, John. Absolutely. There's so much going on with all of this. So what we have, of course, because of the tariffs, is that the rand is much weaker against the dollar. Now, it's strengthened a little bit through the afternoon, but it was much weaker earlier. There's a double whammy effect here. There's the tariffs, which, of course, is going to have a big impact on us. But the other thing is that we cut interest rates yesterday while the U.S. Federal Reserve on Wednesday kept them on hold. That means that the value of the dollar will be slightly stronger against the value of the rand. What you're also seeing, of course, is different effects in different sectors. So the gold price is up, gold shares are up, and I think gold shares are up not just because of gold prices, but because of expectations of all of the I don't know, what's the correct market word, drama that these tariffs are going to cause. So the JSE All Share right now down 1.12%, at 97,417 points. Financials down 1.6%, industrials down 1.97%, and resources up 1.5%. Really gold, I think, doing that. Some of the platinum miners, I suspect, also kind of okay. So we've got that double whammy, we've got the tariffs, and then you have the impact. So a company like Richmond, they obviously are involved in selling luxury goods, particularly in markets like the US. They're down 4.6% today. Other companies that are sort of exposed, like Prosus and Naspers, they're down 3.7%, although we heard from David Shapiro last night, they're actually a good share to buy in this case because they're really exposed more to China and provide services in China rather than any goods to the United States. And then some of the sort of consumer shares like We Buy Cars are down 3.5%, and some of the financial shares also are battling a little bit. But the gold shares are much higher. So Harmony's up 6%, Anglo Gold, DLD Gold, Goldfields all up by way over 2%. Woolworths is up 1.88%. I think probably really about their earnings report yesterday. I mean, they're basically able to charge richer people. They're able to have sort of in-store food inflation of over 5%, while Boxer has a negative 0.6% food inflation. So you can see the impact of that. World markets, though, pretty much down. So the JSE kind of in line with that. And once again, the fact that we have such a big share of the world gold market is insulating us a little bit. I must tell you, John, Business Live reporting this afternoon, the Finance Minister, Enoch Godongwana, saying today he's not going to immediately confirm explicitly that there will be a new inflation target and that it will be 3%. The Reserve Bank, you may remember, said yesterday it was going to target the lower part of its 3 to 6% inflation target. Godongwana is saying he's still consulting and he'll make a decision and only announce a decision after more extensive consultation. There's a lot going on there. In the US, suggestions perhaps that job growth has slowed down quite dramatically in July. Unemployment there has ticked slightly high. These are reports out today. Throw that in with the tariffs and that's sending US markets negative. The Dow Jones is down 1.56. The Nasdaq is down 2.38. The S&P 500 is down 1.8. By the way, if you look at the Nasdaq, they've had a lot of tech earnings out this week, which have been super duper. And so that's really pushed the Nasdaq up. But the fact that shares like Apple are so completely and utterly exposed to tariffs, and we don't know yet what the final decision of the sort of US-China trade issues are going to be. And I think that uncertainty being reflected a little bit there. The gold price right now, $3,349.32. Platinum, $1,300.50. Brent crude, $70.11 a barrel. The rand to the dollar, 18.05 to the euro, 20.87 to the British pound, 23.96. More happy news on the Money Show from 6 o'clock. Stephen Critis, EWN Business.
Thanks, Stephen. This EWN Business was brought to you by Bright. Bright doesn't just provide business insurance, they insure your future success. Bright Insurance is a licensed insurer and authorized FSP.
At Bright, we don't just provide business insurance, we insure your business's
future success.
Because your business is so much more than desks and computers and equipment, which is why we use our specialist expertise to tailor solutions for each client differently to ensure what's really important. So insure your businesses.
Financial security, BT.
With Bright today, contact your broker or go to brightinsure.co.za to find out more. Bright. Approach risk with purpose. Bright is a licensed insurer and authorized FSP.
Right, 7:02 drive at 28 minutes to 5. Let's get the very latest eyewitness news. And Bali Dlamini, good afternoon to you again.
Thanks, John. Good afternoon. We begin with breaking news this hour. The Judicial Service Commission has recommended that Gauteng High Court Judge Nana Makhubele be impeached. Makhubele has been facing a misconduct investigation for being a judge while she held the position of chair at PRASA, a state-owned entity. Makhubele is also accused of advancing corruption and state capture while at the entity. The JSC has found her guilty of gross misconduct and has referred her to Parliament for impeachment. We'll have more on this story at 5 o'clock. We take you to a story of news just in now. Airports Company South Africa has confirmed flight disruptions at OR Tambo International Airport. AXA says the issue is as a result of a system failure flagged by its air traffic and navigation services. The critical systems failures impacting flight operations, with passengers advised to contact their airlines directly for flight updates and possible schedule changes. AXA has further warned passengers to arrive at least 2 to 3 hours ahead of their check-in time to avoid expected interruptions. To this now, the DA wants acting police Minister Feroz Kachalia to institute audits of all senior police officials as a way to restore confidence in the service. Kachalia was sworn in as a minister without a portfolio today and subsequently appointed acting police minister. He's standing in for Senzo Mchunu, who is currently on indefinite leave of absence following damning corruption allegations against him. DA spokesperson on police, Ian Cameron, says Kachalia has a mammoth task ahead to restore public trust in law enforcement.
must end all long paid suspensions by finalizing disciplinary cases swiftly and then reinforce merit-based appointments through independent oversight and professional criteria. It's also important that he separates operational and support roles and place support staff under the Public Service Act and sworn members under the SAPS Act to align mandates with budget.
The ANC has called for an independent investigation into the alleged choking of EFF councillor Mzubanzi Dambuza during a Cape Town council meeting this week. Dambuza has laid a criminal complaint after allegedly being choked by a security officer when he refused to leave the council chambers. Western Cape Police have confirmed an investigation is underway, but no arrests have been made. Carlo Peterson reports.
ANC caucus spokesperson Judy Ann Stevens says the party condemns any use of excessive force in council. Stevens says elected councillors must be able to engage robustly yet safely in council meetings.
The Speaker opened the door for disorder by selectively applying the rules to the one side of the chambers by naming only opposition councillors, but DA councillors can do as they please.
Stevens says an independent and transparent inquiry must be launched while the city has indicated the matter is being reviewed. Carlo Peterson, Eyewitness News.
And in Pakistan, 108 members in ex-Prime Minister Imran Khan's party have been sentenced to prison, with some to spend at least 10 years behind bars. They were arrested for their involvement in protests against the military in May of 2023. Violent protests erupted nationwide after security forces arrested Khan during his court appearance on corruption charges. Khan, formerly a cricket star, has been in prison since August of 2023, but remains hugely popular in Pakistan. A partly cloudy Saturday in store for Gauteng tomorrow. Lows of between 2 and 6 degrees and highs of between 16 and 18.
Kempton Park heading towards Tembisa, 30-minute delay. This is on the R21 northbound between the R24 Merge and Pomona Road, while in Doornkop, Soweto, expect delays on the R558. That's between Protea Boulevard and Main Street. Also in Lenasia, traffic congested on the Golden Highway between the N12 and the R554 and Nirvana Drive.
The breaking news in EWN this hour: the Judicial Service Commission has recommended that Gauteng High Court Judge Nana Makubele be impeached.
702 Afternoons
with Relebogile Mabota, 1 to 3 p.m.
What would you then share just in terms of advice? I mean, you work with vocalists. You have a lot of young people trying to get into the business. It's tricky. Now you have to be a brand and you have to have social media and all of these things. What advice would you give to the young person trying to get into this industry?
The most important thing is to be honest to yourself. Know who you are. Know your sound. Yes, there's a lot of sounds. You can get inspired, but be you, And, there's so much information right now. Understand how music works, understand the contracts, understand how to carry yourself as a brand, understand what do I do daily before I get there. I think it's the best thing that you can do right now to put yourself out there.
Producer and DJ Ronnie Deep.
702 Afternoons
with Relebogile Maboja.
Let's walk the talk.
Don't miss the remarkable, versatile and world-renowned Buscade Soweto String Ensemble at its annual performance, featuring a wide range of popular music favorites from classical to amapiano. These young musicians will be joined by South Africa's charismatic diva Sibongile Mngoma, singing jazz, blues and rock songs. The concert takes place at the Linda Auditorium on Sunday the 3rd of August at 3 p.m. Book now at Quicket.
The thrill of the chase comes with great rewards in the legendary Hollywood Bets Spinner Zonke Jackpot Race. Join the run, spin selected habanero slots for fun, and stand a chance to win a share of 3 million rand. Feel the rush in the race for riches when you bet 2 rand or more every Wednesday, Friday, and Saturday, and you could jump with Jackpot Joy. Take on the challenge and discover endless opportunities to win big. Bet now.
T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. Hollywood Bet supports responsible gambling. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counselling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp HELP to 076 675 0710.
At Bright, we don't just provide business insurance. We insure your business's
future success.
Because your business is so much more than desks and computers and equipment, which is why we use our specialist expertise to tailor solutions for each client differently to ensure what's really important. So ensure your businesses.
Financial security be
With Bright today, contact your broker or go to brightinsure.co.za to find out more. Bright, approach risk with purpose. Bright is a licensed insurer and authorized FSP.
702 and Corporates That Care with Bata are talking about Bata Children's Program.
We've run school donations, volunteer days. We have about 82 people in our head office in KZN. They frequently go down to the Malvern Children's Home. The Malvern Children's Home is a home for orphans that we've adopted basically in the KZN region. We've assisted them with jungle gyms, water tanks, stationary libraries. We've built a library for them, as mentioned. Unfortunately, the Malvern's Children's Home has a R1 million debt, water and electricity debt.
Sure.
So we've created a GoFundMe page, and a portion of the proceeds from our Mandela Day shoe sales will go towards this cause. So when corporates choose Toughies for their Mandela Day giving, they're not just buying the school shoes, they're helping children keep their home running.
From jungle gyms to school supplies and life-changing donations, Bata is building brighter futures. Visit bata.co.za to learn more. 702, let's walk the talk.
702. WhatsApp John
On 072
702
1702.
John, I agree. These initiatives are wonderful, but we are letting our city and our government off the hook. Ultimately, why do we have a government? Why do we pay taxes? It is to provide these services, and we've become very blasé and numb in terms of, for the sake of keeping our civilization intact, taking these things on in the private sector. So it is concerning, even though it is a great initiative.
So you say you like wine or prefer wine over coffee. You don't drink coffee. Talking about the wine, it's always bothered me. I wonder why they call wine wine when you actually laugh. Mark from Johannesburg.
Good end, Dada John. It's been a very good week for me. But yeah, I just couldn't wait for the local football to return. So yeah, I'm excited. I'm taking my family to Orlando tomorrow as we go and deal with Polokwane City. Thank you.
Yeah, I love that last message, and thank you, because I was going to ask the question. A sold-out stadium is, to me, always just music to my ears, because when I think of what built my love of football, I grew up in an era as a young boy where there was no television in South Africa, and even when there was TV, and the coverage of South African football and football in general on TV wasn't anywhere close to as extensive as it is now. But I just love the idea that people are taking younger people to the stadium, because there's nothing to beat it. Yep, fabulous sitting in front of the TV, all the replays, blah, blah, blah. I get all of that. But that feeling I remember getting as a young person, and I've never lost it as an adult, as you get closer to the stadium and these streams of fans, hey, Karabo, become rivers. Eesh. And you sort of eventually, you're shuffling your way forward, and the noise is building.
Just getting goosebumps, just knowing Orlando will be packed tomorrow.
Yeah, and if you can share that with younger people in your life, boys and girls, please do that. If anyone else is going to the stadium and you're taking someone for the first time, give us a call. Drop me a voice note. I'd love to hear that story. And again, on Monday, maybe you can tell us how it was. It's a lifetime pleasure that you're introducing them to, I hope. 702 Drive, it's 17 minutes to 5.
EWN Sport.
Right, let's get the very latest sports news with Tolakele Mganga. South African cricketers gearing up for a tough series away.
Absolutely, John. And the Proteas players who were involved in the World Test Championship final will return to national duty this month. Aiden Markram, Kagiso Rabada and Themba Bavuma among the big names that are back for the short ball series against Australia. And reflecting on their June success, Markram insists the team is ready to get back to business.
Yeah, it's not that hard, to be honest. When you strive towards a goal, which is obviously the next
The next thing on our agenda is T20 World Cup. It's quite easy to get out of bed and work hard and look forward to that. So that's pretty much where we're at. Where I'm at personally and for us as a team is fine-tuning a lot of things and preparing for that T20 World Cup. So a great opportunity in Australia and then followed by England. And like I mentioned, if we can fine-tune some stuff and get closer towards another trophy, that would be good.
At the Oval, India were all out for 224 in their first innings on day 2 of the 5th and deciding test against England. In response, the home side are 207 for the loss of 5 as they trail by 17 runs. Batting is Jamie Smith on 6 alongside Harry Brook on 27. Over to Harare, where New Zealand have won the first test against Zimbabwe by 9 wickets. Stand-in skipper Mitchell Satner took 4 wickets as the hosts were dismissed for 165 runs in their second innings, leaving the Black Caps needing just only 8 runs in their second one to win the test. Switching to the MTN 8, where the first quarter-final tomorrow will see defending champions Orlando Pirates up against Polokwane City. That's at a sold-out Orlando Stadium, whilst Kukuna United will clash with TS Galaxy. Linda Mtambo has discussed what it would mean for them to win this trophy.
The money is good, 10 million. Who would not want to, have 10 million into their bank account? And I think for us as players, it's always important for us to decorate our careers. And just winning this MTN 8 would mean the world to us, especially as captain of the club. I would love to lift the trophy and just write my name and still our names into the history books of the club. We want to be the first ones to bring silverware to the club.
And the Wallabies have been forced into a late change for their third test against the British and Irish Lions, with Billy Pollard promoted to start at hooker after David Pukeki and Matt Fessler were ruled out of Saturday's match. Fessler's calf muscle injury means that Brandon Pagenga Omosa is drafted into the team. Joe Schmidt has also spoken about their desire to avoid a whitewash and ensure that Nick White gets a victorious send-off.
I know it's part of the motivation. It is. He's so well respected in the group. He's been at the top of the game for a dozen years. So when you make that contribution over 12 years, as I said, it's not sentimentality, but it is a reality. When someone is important to the group want to support them.
Tolagele Mganga, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
Now, at the beginning of the show, I always say we're going to bring you whatever we can, as fresh as we can, and the very latest eyewitness news. But we also ask you to help us out. This Eyewitness News Traffic is brought to you by Outsurance in partnership with 702. And one of you is helping us with some traffic updates.
Traffic. I don't think there's accidents. I've tried the N3, I've tried the N1. And now I'm on the R21. And all it is roadworks in preparation for the G20. Roadworks, month end, on a Friday. It's crazy.
Yeah, there you have it, John. So it is pretty busy at this time of the afternoon. N3 southbound, that's driving through Alexandra. Between the N3 southbound between Marlborough Drive and Van Buren. That's heading towards Germiston. Kempton Park also expect about a 30-minute delay. That's traveling towards Tembisa. R21 northbound between R24 Merge and Pomona Road, while in Edenvale, that's traveling towards Bedford View. Traffic is a bit sluggish on the R24 westbound between Edenvale Road and the Gilulis interchange. In Calvin, traffic remains a bit sluggish. N3 northbound between London Road and the Butler interchange due to an earlier accident. Doornkop also expect delays on the R558 between Protea Boulevard and Main Street. And finally, if you're traveling into Soweto, there's slow-moving traffic on Chris Hani Road opposite Bara Taxi Rank. If you come across any other traffic issues, please WhatsApp us on 072-702-1702.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app. The Outsurance pointsmen know that every car on the road carries a story. There's a car with a family driving to their new home, carrying boxes stacked with plates and toys and memories. The Outsurance pointsmen know it's not just a car in traffic, it's a new beginning, a fresh start on the move. Every story's different and every story matters. That's why the Outsurance pointsmen have been doing what they do since 2005 in proud partnership with 702. Outsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
702 Drive, we were asking you a little bit earlier about expensive things that you simply would not give up. This one from Victor. It's not expensive now, but even if it did get expensive, I would skip breakfast before I cancel my Spotify subscription. There's some love. Anyway, saying he doesn't have to do it yet. Okay, Victor, we'll wait and see. When the price goes up, we'll check on what you've eaten on any given morning. Thank you. Now, that was a question I asked you a little bit earlier. We've got another thing that's on our collective minds. Karabo Chale was asking this question of us a little bit earlier, and I thought we'd share it with you. What is that thing that you always wanted to be really good at? Maybe it was playing football. Maybe it was singing. Maybe it was cooking. Maybe it was acting, or whatever it is. And how has that worked out for you? Did you reach something that for you represented a height? Or did you find that you kind of just reframed that ambition? If I think of myself, for example, I always bizarrely imagined I could be a football star. And when it became clear that it wasn't going to happen, I found huge pleasure and satisfaction in the Sunday League football team that I played in, where I wouldn't necessarily say I was a star, but, I was a decent enough player, able to have an impact. But I'm just wondering how you have gone on the journey of a dream of being excellent at something, and either you achieved what you set out to, or you just found a new way of enjoying that thing without using your ambition as any kind of stick to beat yourself. Karabo, it was on your mind. What prompted it?
So I was going through my phone and I saw a video. I was at a festival, music festival, and we were dancing. And geez, John, it was cringeworthy, eh? So
who's your dancing?
My dancing, yeah. I've always loved to dance. I see people dancing to Amapiano and having these nice moves. And I tried, but geez, I just look like I am lost. And yeah, it's cringeworthy, eh? So I've just accepted it now. I just dance. I just dance like nobody's watching, So because I enjoy dancing so much. And speaking about soccer, I was not bad at soccer, but then juggling the ball during warm up, everybody was juggling the ball, and I just couldn't do it. So while they were warming up and juggling the ball, I'll just kick the ball around and just run around in circles. It felt quite embarrassing.
How are you good at football if you're going to juggle the ball?
Apparently you can be good at soccer without not knowing how to juggle.
You don't have to be able to juggle the ball. There's no relationship between the two whatsoever. I mean, you could have put in some dance moves in your warm-up and killed two birds with one stone. Tolakele, were there things that, one day I'm going to be and then a reframing of that?
Karabo Malapila will love this. I always thought I was going to be a fantastic singer.
Okay.
And she has evidence that I am not. But that doesn't stop me from singing. No, John, you can't watch the video.
Karabo Malapila, please open your mic. She had a proper laugh over there. Okay.
I'm glad you didn't.
Thank you. No, I've just accepted. It's not one of my talents, unfortunately.
Never joined a choir where you could blend in?
In grade 8, because at Germiston High, every year the grade 8s have to do a talent show as part of the introduction to high school. So we all had to audition for the choir. I got 2 out of 10.
Okay. Maybe give us one line and then John will be the judge. One line.
No, thank you.
I will not judge. I will not and cannot judge when it comes to singing. 702 Drive, things you dreamed of doing and how that played out in your life. And maybe, for example, you thought, I'm great at cricket, could be a career, and maybe it didn't work out, but you took, as I did with football, huge pleasure in playing in a weekend cricket team. Maybe your dreams of being some kind of music star found expression in joining a choir at your church or in your neighborhood. I don't know your story. You do. Share it, please. 072 7021 702.
Drive home with John Perlman
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
Now, at this time every Friday, we do focus on music in a particular way with Randall Abrams. We call it Randall's One Song. And Randall, a very good afternoon to you. Today, we're going to do a redo of what you did last week, because I think it was a very special thing that you picked out for us, the Stockley Sisters. Unfortunately, we played the wrong version of the song. So set the scene again for us, if you will, and then let's listen to the proper version of Avril and Miriam Stockley performing Take Me Higher. But over to you. Good afternoon.
Hi, John. So they started off very, very young as girl group singers, a duo. And what's obviously very interesting about singers who have family ties is that they obviously have very similar inflections and vocal cords, right? because there's both nature and nurture involved. So there's so many very famous brother duos, the Everly brothers, the Gibb brothers, etc. And in this case, the harmonizing of those two sisters was just fantastic. So when you listen to those early singles, it's almost like listening to the two girls from ABBA, even though those two had quite different voices. But that's kind of the style that they sing in, and obviously that's what must have influenced a lot of those early pop records that came out on David Gresham's Nitty Gritty label. Miriam then went on to be a very, very successful backing singer, featuring on hits by Tina Turner and PWL, so the early hits by Kylie Minogue, and then even went on to be a backing vocalist for Queen. And obviously those massive arrangements of the later Queen songs, those really, really big, uplifting songs. She then also went on to be very, very successful in the kind of neoclassical space, working with British producers, and had an album out, which, as I say, is a collective, but she was the voice on it, and that sold over 6 million copies. And again, it's just so interesting to imagine that there are these amazing voices that, as I say, aren't ever the lead singer, right? They're actually the person doing the backgrounds, and yet they can just be, miraculous singers all on their own.
Right. It's so interesting, and I've got some questions out of what you just said a moment ago, Randall, but let's enjoy then the correct version of the Stockley Sisters, Take Me Higher. The sound of the Stockley Sisters, Take Me Higher. Randall, there are all sorts of gems lying, I wouldn't say buried, but kind of that maybe need airing, if that's the right word, in South African music history, it would seem.
Absolutely, and I guess in all music histories, obviously everybody knows the big names, so everybody knows that David Bowie is, I imagine. But in 1975, I imagine very few people would have heard of Luther Vandross, who featured on the Young Americans record, right? Again, people know Whitney Houston, but do they know her mom, Sissy, who, amongst others, she was in the Sweet Inspirations. She sang backing vocals for a very short time for Elvis, and on a lot of the records for Aretha Franklin. So, yes, absolutely, in South African music as well, there are so many interesting stories. I think we've covered a few. So Clive Calder, who is not a musician but a very, very successful executive and owner of a record company, who sold his Jive label and his publishing at the height of the boy band phenomenon. He had some very, very successful boy bands and, of course, R&B stars on his label. I think he sold his company for $2 billion. I don't know what the publishing went for about 25 years ago. And Ralph Simon, of course, who was his partner, also South African.
Right.
And then, there's Robert John Matlango, of course.
Yeah.
Who I was trying to ask AI the other day just how much money he's made off Brian Adams' "Everything I Do It for You," because I think just that would have made you and I very comfortable for the rest of our lives. So yes, there are some fascinating South African musical stories, as I say, beyond the artists.
And
this also is the 100th year of the celebration of the birth of Kippie Moralong Moketsi, and I'm sure by the end of the year I will play a track of his as well.
Fabulous. So many stories to tell. Looking forward to hearing them from Randall Abrams, Randall's One Song, at the same time next Friday.
Mzansi, have you bought your Powerball ticket for the staggering 113 million rand estimated jackpot this Friday? Walala wasala. Play Powerball for the estimated 113 million rand jackpot today for your chance at winning life-changing millions. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *7529# for USSD. Panda, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years old or play responsibly. eTuba is a proud operator of the National Lottery.
Let me get this right, Ron. You're a plumber by day and Pretoria's smoothest wedding DJ by night.
Yeah, it started out as a passion and now I've got bookings until December. And a smoke machine that needs its own seatbelt.
And you sold your car to buy a van through We Buy Cars.
Brew, it was music to my ears. Zero admin, no long queues. They pulled in, checked it out, and before I knew it, I had cash in the bank.
Now that's a banger. We Buy Cars. Geared for your passion, geared for you.
OUTsurance made it possible for us to travel more with the money that we save. 725. This is really real.
You are the biggest saver we've ever had.
2,794 rand a month. It was the easiest switch ever. Get real.
How is it that OUTsurance provided the solution for you?
918 rand is what I'm saving.
Incredible.
Go to outsurance.co.za now for a 10-minute quote that could save you thousands. Licensed insurer and FSP. T's, C's, and information online.
This is EWN.
The JSC recommends the impeachment of Judge Nana Makhubele, and a technical glitch disrupts flights at the OR Tambo International Airport. Good afternoon, I'm Bali Dlamini. Gauteng High Court Judge Nana Makhubele has been found guilty of gross misconduct and now faces impeachment in the National Assembly. Makhubele has been facing a misconduct investigation for being a judge while she held the position of PRASA Board Chair, a state-owned entity. She is also accused of advancing corruption and state capture while she was at the entity. Khomoto Modise has more.
Judge Nana Makhubele will become the third judge in democratic South Africa to be impeached after the Judicial Service Commission found her guilty of gross misconduct. Makhubele was hauled before the Judicial Conduct Tribunal after a complaint was laid by civil society organization #UniteBehind. The group claimed Makhubele violated the separation of powers principle by being both a judge and chair of PRASA, a state-owned entity, at the same time. But she contended that while she was appointed by the president in January 2018, she had not taken her oath of office, meaning she was not yet a judge. She's also accused of playing a role in state capture by advancing the interests of a PRASA contractor, Siaya, which faces corruption allegations. Makhubele's matter has been referred to the Speaker of Parliament, which will begin her impeachment proceedings. Khomozo Modise, Eyewitness News.
To this developing story now, Airports Company South Africa has confirmed flight disruptions at the OR Tambo International Airport. AXA says the issue is as a result of a system failure flagged by its air traffic and navigation services. The critical systems failure is impacting flight operations, with passengers advised to contact their airlines directly for flight updates and possible schedule changes. AXA has further warned passengers to arrive at least 2 to 3 hours ahead of their check-in time
time to avoid the unexpected interruptions. Let's stay in the skies. Trade union Solidarity has called on FlySafair to review its labour practices after a 12-day strike by some of the airline's pilots came to an end today. FlySafair confirmed a formal agreement between the airline's management and union Solidarity that has been signed. The striking pilots demanded salary adjustments and an amended roster system with rest time and leave benefits. Carlo Peterson has more.
Union Solidarity says FlySafair's pilots have agreed to return to work after accepting salary increases of up to 6.9% over the next 4 years. The union says pilots will also receive 1 weekend off every 6 weeks and 9 weekends off per year. Union Solidarity spokesperson Halgard Kronier says there were no winners in the mediation process.
While the agreement is an important step, there are still concerns that it only protects the most basic rights of the pilots. It is tragic that the employees need to strike for 12 days to get a written agreement that protects only their basic rights.
FlySafair says it's pleased to have reached a resolution for the airline to return to its full schedule. Carlo Peterson, Eyewitness News.
President Cyril Ramaphosa says government is working on a set of interventions to cushion the blow of the harsh U.S. tariffs on local businesses. The announcement on possible aid for South African exporters comes as Pretoria continues to negotiate with Washington for more favorable trade terms. Goods entering the U.S. from South Africa face a 30% duty. Nogukanya Mtambo reports.
U.S. President Donald Trump signed a fresh executive order yesterday, modifying some reciprocal tariff rates initially set out on April 2nd. The new order takes effect in a week's time on the 7th of August. In it, Trump says some trading partners have agreed to or on the verge of agreeing to meaningful trade and security commitments with the U.S., signaling their sincere intentions to permanently remedy the trade barriers. President Cyril Ramaphosa says while horse trading continues behind closed doors, South Africa is already considering interventions for affected industries.
Our objective really is to save jobs. We want to preserve the jobs of those companies that are going to be adversely affected.
Agriculture, especially citrus and the auto sector, are among those expected to take the hardest knock, while some products remain on a list of exemptions, including some mining commodities. Nogukanya Mtambo, Eyewitness News.
And in the U.S., a man who murdered his wife and 2 children with a machete has become the 9th person to be executed in Florida this year. 60-year-old Air Force veteran Edward Zakreski was executed yesterday for the 1994 murders. The Sunshine State's previous record since capital punishment was restored in 1976 was 8 executions. That was back in 2014. No other state has killed more people this year, and 2 more are set to be executed on the 19th and the 28th of this month. A total of 27 men have been put to death in the United States so far in 2025. Gold is trading at $3,345.67 an ounce. The rand is at 18.07 to the dollar, 24.01 to the pound, 20.91 to the euro, and Brent crude oil is at $71.70 a barrel.
Lenasia, you can still expect about a 20-minute delay on the Golden Highway between the N12 and the R554 Nirvana Drive, Naturina. There's bumper-to-bumper traffic. That's on the Golden Highway. Between Chris Hani Road and the N1, and in Centurion, there's traffic pressure on the N1 northbound between John Foster and the Flying Saucer interchange.
In your sport, local football returns this weekend, starting with the quarterfinals of the MTN 8. Newcastle United reject bid for Alexander Isak, and the British and Irish Lions in search of an 80-minute performance in their last test against the Wallabies.
A partly cloudy Saturday in store for Gauteng tomorrow. Joburg dropping to overnight lows of 5 degrees, peaking at 16. Pretoria 6 and 18, and Vereniging 2 and 17 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour. Gauteng High Court Judge Nana Makhubele has been found guilty of gross misconduct and now faces impeachment in the National Assembly.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
7:02.
Drive home with John Perlman.
John Perlman, 3 to 6 p.m.
On 92.7 and 106 FM. Let's walk the talk.
7:02 Drive, it's 9 minutes past 5 as the weekend draws near for everybody who isn't working late tonight. Friday night, of course, busy in the hospitality industry. Maybe you're gearing up for a night of busyness and hopefully business. If you are, well, we wish you well over the weekend's trading. For everyone else who's looking for an opportunity to relax, play sport, watch sport, see family, attend church or other areas of religious observance, lots and lots of different things that people are going to do over the weekend. Whatever it is, I hope you're looking forward to it. I hope the weekend itself meets your expectations. Coming up over the next half an hour or so, we are going to be talking in a moment to political analyst Kaya Sithole. This in the light of something Stephen Curtis mentioned in his 25 past 4 bulletin, where he was talking about the finance minister to some degree pushing back, it would seem, on something Reserve Bank Governor Lisicha Kganyago saying that policymakers would now be targeting 3% inflation. Not so fast, the minister seemed to be saying in sort of ministerial code. What's that all about? Kaya Sithole, I'm certain, has an explanation. And then we're going to follow up on that story that was leading the news. Justice Nana Makubele, the JSE recommending that she face impeachment proceedings. This doesn't happen often. When it does, it goes on for a while and invariably gets quite complex. Mbegazeli Benjamin from Judges Matter will be joining us to give us some clarity on that. Latter part of the show, a song, a book and a dish. Rugby commentator Paul Stubbs is my guest with a song that's important to him, a book that's inspired, and of course stories about food. Kind of my favorite part because it's partly about dishes, but mainly it's about the sharing of food and the memories that stirs up. Paul with us at about 20 minutes to 6.
702. WhatsApp John
on 072
702
1702.
No. Good afternoon, guys. If you can't take, I'm fed too. You can't play. I'm sorry. How do you control the ball? If you can't control the ball alone, unmarked, please. You may be interested. You love football, but then maybe you were good at football. I don't think so. If you can't take her, you can't play. That's the motto. Thanks for the lovely show, guys. Kiki.
So I would just finesse that slightly and say, okay, fair enough. If you can't take her, have I got that expression right? If you can't take her, you can't play. Maybe. But the fact that you can take her does not mean you can play.
Nice.
Because I've seen lots of people who can do fancy things with the ball. Football is not about fancy feet alone. It's about many, many other things. So I think we need a whole, 30 minutes to have this argument. At least we've got it started.
Hey, I used to score goals, so...
There we go. You don't get any points on a league table for your decker. But point taken, I guess you've got to be able to do it a little bit.
Yeah.
The question is how much. 702 Drive, it's 12 minutes past 5, and this Eyewitness News traffic is brought to you by Outsurance in partnership with 702.
EWN Traffic.
Karabo Chale, now we know about the problems on the R21. If you're heading north on the N1 and you have Centurion either as part of your journey or your destination, well, it might be a while, yeah?
Yeah, traffic pressure, that's in the Centurion area heading towards the Linwood area. That's the N1 North between John Foster and the R21 Flying Saucer interchange. Also in Irene, traffic is a bit sluggish. This is approaching the intersection of Nalmepius and Main Road. Still in Pretoria, there's bumper-to-bumper traffic. That's driving through the Hermanstad Dasport area. There's about an hour delay. Very strange. Hour delay on the R80 northbound. That's the Mabopane Highway between Eskia and Pahlele and the Hairpin Bend. I see them. There's an accident scene again. Your eyes and ears, let us know what's happening. WhatsApp us 072-702-1702 if you're leaving Pretoria CBD heading towards Soshanguve. Avoid that 1 hour delay. Rather drive through Paul Kruger, head towards Paul Kruger and use Rachel de Beer as an alternative. Let's go to the Soweto area. This is Naturena. where we have bumper-to-bumper traffic on the Golden Highway between Chris Hani Road and the N1. Lenasia, expect about a 20-minute delay on the Golden Highway between the N12 and the R554 Nirvana Drive. And finally, in Doornkop, also expect some delays. Still in Soweto on the R558 between Protea Boulevard and Main Street. If you come across any other traffic issues, please, we are on X as well. You can tweet us at EWN Traffic.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Clever late excuse number 75. I had to rescue my neighbor's cat from a tree. Fortunately, with the OUTsurance pointsmen on the roads, you no longer have to come up with creative excuses for being late. The OUTsurance pointsmen easing traffic congestion and getting you there quickly and safely since 2005. OUTsurance really means it when they say you always get something out. In proud partnership with 702. Show them some love online using hashtag pointsmenlove. OUTsurance is a licensed insurer and FSP.
You're with John Perlman on 702.
Let's walk the talk.
5:15 on 702 Drive. Now, Stephen on the Money Show, and in fact in our chat earlier about the shift in the interest rates, really did foreshadow this by saying, well, the Reserve Bank Governor, Lesicha Kganyago, was making it clear that the policymakers would now be targeting 3% inflation. Stephen, at the time, you may recall, said, well, this does need Treasury to be involved. Now, today, Treasury has made that rather clear. Some reports are defining it or describing it as Finance Minister Enoch Godongwana slamming a preemptive move by the SA Reserve Bank to begin targeting a 3% inflation rate. The statement from the Finance Minister has this phrase: any adjustments to our inflation targeting framework will follow the established consultation process. Goes on to detail this as comprehensive consultation between National Treasury, the Reserve Bank, Cabinet and relevant stakeholders, not unilateral announcements that preempt legitimate policy deliberation. I think that sounds like slam to me in the polite language of government. Kai Satole, independent analyst, joins us now. Kai, very good afternoon to you. Would it be fair to say that the Finance Minister is not happy? And if so, tell us why. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Yes, the statement does indicate that there is definitely some element of frustration and maybe some hysterical reaction to what has been happening. Now, whether it's warranted is a bit tricky. And why I say it's a bit tricky is that at the heart of this conversation is the question of what the Monetary Policy Committee uses as a guidance when it makes its policy decisions. So what we've had for a very long time, I think for over 20 years now, is this window of 3 to 6%, which is basically the corridor within which they've been making their decisions. And what happens is that once we go beyond that 6% corridor, it simply states to them, guys, we think the economy is overheating, so therefore we need to be a bit more drastic in the way in which we tamper with interest rates in order to get it to a particular level. And in very few instances, we've been below 3%. So you'd have seen in recent periods, there have been some reporting periods where we've been below 2%. But generally, we've remained within that range. But what has happened over the past 8 years or so is that in spite of that being the corridor from which they operate, the MPC has continuously hinted, firstly, that they'd like to remain at the midpoint of that. So they've said that even though the government of South Africa said let's work with between 3 and 6%, we think 4.5% is a comfort zone. Now, because that was within the latitude or within the corridor, no one really panicked about that. It became the accepted way in which they could communicate. What they've been saying in recent periods is that, well, actually, we'd like to be on the lower end of that particular corridor. So the lower end is obviously 3%. So I regard it as simply them saying that, look, for a very long time, we've been saying we're happy with the midpoint, but we now think we should be closer to the lower end. So I do not believe that they've breached the corridor itself, because they've said 3%, and 3% is what they've been told to work in between. So they've been told to work between 3 and 6%, and they're now simply saying that we want to move closer to 3% than we have been in the past few years. So it's not very clear why it's all creating so much hysteria, actually.
Yeah, we'll talk about that fallout in a moment, but the phrase, the two words, relevant stakeholders, can mean absolutely anything. And what it sometimes means is a very long process of consultation with people who say, well, we want to consult our stakeholders and nothing much gets done. Should we be concerned, though, Kaiser Tole, at, on the one hand, the Monetary Policy Committee saying what they said yesterday, and the Finance Minister coming back quite as strongly as he has? I mean, what are the larger implications of this? Is this a storm finding its way into a teacup, or might this be some kind of prologue to a deeper quarrel?
Well, I think the problem here is that because they're speaking past each other, it creates anxieties, because obviously the reason this is such an important conversation is that much of what happens really is dependent on our clear stance as a country on where we want to be, because people should be able to then map that against actual outcomes. So if the country says that our corridor is 3 to 6% and somebody sees in the horizon that we're heading to 7 or 8%, they know exactly how they should react in relation to the position that they hold. So this is a very important number. But what is a bit less clear to understand is, again, why this is such a problematic conversation to have. And the reason it's not very clear is because when you talk about the process of consultation, the process of consultation will obviously happen. But what is happening here is that we have perhaps that conflation of two conversations where the corridor exists of 3 to 6% versus the governor's own individual wish for a singular reference point. So obviously, if you move away from a corridor of 3 to 6% and you say that we want to work with a singular reference point, now that is a fundamental departure from what we've had. Now, I do not know if in yesterday's announcement the interpretation was that the corridor is being abandoned in favor of a singular number, because if that's what was heard, then that's very different to what we've been hearing before. But if the only statement was that, look, within the corridor we'd like to work on the lower end, I'm not convinced that it warrants the type of hysteria that we're seeing here, because they're literally saying that in the corridor you've given us, we want to work on one particular extremity rather than the other.
Kaiser Tole, thank you very much. Independent analyst. That story, I'm sure, will get further treatment in the Money Show from Stephen and his team. That's between 6 and 8. It's 21 minutes past 5.
Drive home with John Perlman
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
Well, let's turn now to the story that's been leading Mbali Dlamini's bulletins for a couple of those this afternoon. The Judicial Service Commission has recommended that Gauteng High Court Judge Nana Makubele be impeached. She has been facing a misconduct investigation for being a judge while holding the position of chair at the Passenger Rail Agency of South Africa, PRASA. And there's other stuff coming up as well. Begazeli Benjamin, researcher at Judges Matter, joins us now. Mr. Benjamin, good afternoon to you. Impeachments of judges take place very, very rarely. Clearly, the JSC believe that the conduct of High Court Judge Nana Makubele deserves exactly this. Any idea as to why? What exactly is she supposed to have done?
Good afternoon, John, and good afternoon to the listeners. Well, the key concern that the JSC looked at was dishonesty. The judge was involved in, the allegations are twofold. The first one is that she held the position of a judge and also the chairperson of PRASA at the same time, which is not allowed in terms of the law, and it's gross misconduct. The second allegation was that while she was at PRASA, there were certain things that she got involved in, which revealed a level of impropriety. But the JSC was motivated to find her guilty of gross misconduct and recommend impeachment because they said she didn't play open cards. She sort of put up very dishonest defense during the tribunal process, and there doesn't seem to be a legitimate version of why she was involved in all of this. And for those reasons, they thought impeachment was the correct way to go.
So what happens next?
So now the JSC has made the recommendation to the National Assembly. The National Assembly has to, firstly, this committee has to receive the recommendation and table it in front of the entire parliament, all 400 members. And for you to impeach a judge, you need a 2/3 majority. So 267 members of parliament need to vote yes that she be removed from office through this process of impeachment.
So we've gone down this road before, but if I'm not mistaken, with a parliament with a very different balance of political power, do you have a sense that could make a big difference this time round?
I don't think so, John. We've had 2 previous impeachments, and in case of Judge Hlophe, there were about 357 votes. And so it was way more than what was required across multiple political parties. So I don't see any reason in this time where they will vote differently, particularly because the allegations that are confronting Judge Makhubele relate to state capture and the State Capture Commission. She, in fact, was the only judge who was named in the Zondo Commission report. So on the basis of how the issue of the Zondo Commission and corruption generally has been in the public arena, I don't think there will be any political party that will vote against in this case.
I'm just wondering, for example, about the MK party, given that a senior member of that party, former Judge John Hlophe, was himself impeached and may wish to use this to make a point about this process and its consistency.
Yeah, there might very well be that eventuality, especially because the MK party did not exist when Parliament did the impeachment votes the last time. So we don't know how the MK will vote, but we have a fair assessment of where the other political parties will go.
Thank you so much, Mbegazeli Benjamin. A story, I suppose, right, maybe not at the beginning, but at the midpoint. But certainly the impeachment process, I suspect, will be long indeed. 011 883 0702 if you've got a view on that. 072 702 1702.
John is on X
at John Perlman.
So we were talking with Randall Abrams about the Stockley sisters, going back on some South African music from a good many decades past. Tom says, "Hello, John. The chat reminds me of a music group in East London, the late 60s and early 70s, the Delians, with songs like Look Out, Here Comes Tomorrow and Love Comes Knocking." And indeed, I remember those songs. They were sort of part of my youth as well. The Delians were a band, as Tom points out, from East London. Mike Fuller, who was a very significant figure in South African music, was the founder of the group. If you're wondering how they got the name, they took their name from a hotel called the Deals Hotel, where the group performed, and they had a great deal of success, won a number of awards during that time. The producer of their music was Peter Lotus, who many of you might recall from his role in South African music and radio. Thanks, Tom. It's nice when you stir the memory pot, all sorts of other memories come up. Thanks for sending us that. 27 minutes past 5.
EWN Business.
Stephen Curtis, good afternoon to you. We had, some significant developments during the day, apart from the numbers on the stock exchange, but also the finance minister and the Reserve Bank governor, Kai Sithole, expressing his views. I'm sure you're going to cover that on the Money Show as well.
Indeed, John. Good afternoon. I mean, it is a fascinating thing that the Reserve Bank has done. I mean, I can't imagine that there wasn't a lot of conversation between the two, and I'm sure that yesterday's announcement by the governor wasn't a surprise. That said, I think the politics of the moment is so complicated and difficult that maybe the governor just felt he had to go and do it. I'm pleased to say the rand seems to be recovering a little bit. So the rand taking a hammering really for two reasons. One, our interest rates were cut, whereas in the US they were not. But also, of course, the tariff issue having an impact on the rand. A jobs report's come out in the US suggesting that, in fact, it was growing jobs at a much slower rate than previously expected. And that seems to have reversed some of the damage, weakened the dollar a little bit. On a day really marked by the tariff disruption around the world, John, Pretty much every market is down. The JSE All Share not too bad in the end, down 0.79% at 97,744 points. I think we have the gold price to thank for that. Financials down nearly 1.5%, industrials down 1.9%, resources up, as you would expect, 2.5%, and it's really what you would expect to see when the gold price starts to go up. So, I mean, Harmony are up 7.7%. I think what that really is sort of factoring a long-term volatility and thus a higher gold price for quite some time. But all of the gold shares up. But the real story is what's happening with shares that are going to be affected by the tariff. So Richmond are down 4.88%, considering they make luxury goods, export them into the United States, and they're luxury goods. You can, I understand, do without that particular handbag. I mean, I'm not sure. I've never tried it myself, but you can. And so when something like that is discretionary, you can imagine the impact it'll have on Richmond. Also, of course, exposed to trade and thus to China and thus trade. Talking of China, Naspers and Prosus both down on the day by around 3.5%. Sasol also taking a hit. They're down 4%, while Kumba is down 4.28%. A little bit of a bright spot for Woolworths. They had an update yesterday. They're up 2.16%. As we were saying, the Finance Minister, Eden Godongwana, issuing that statement today, doesn't seem to be happy with what the Reserve Bank's decision has done. Global stock markets are down pretty much everywhere. Then you've got those US growth numbers that were disappointing, and that has really led to the markets in the US taking a little bit of a tumble. So the Dow Jones is down 1.2%. The Nasdaq is down nearly 2%, and the S&P 500 down 1.5%. Nasdaq, of course, tech shares hugely exposed to tariffs, John, through their relationships with China. Think of Apple, designed in California, made in China, and you can see why the Nasdaq is really taking such a hit. The gold price right now, $3,344.76 an ounce. Platinum, $1,308.37. Brent crude slightly lower as well at $69.78. That also, I think, being affected by the US jobs numbers. The rand to the dollar, 18.04, to the euro, 20.86, to the British pound, 23.95. On the Money Show, we'll speak to Omnia, John. They're a mining and chemicals company, and in fact, they've agreed to come on and explain what these tariffs are going to do to them. We'll ask them as well if they think government could have done more. My own view, and I'll restate this, is I don't think our government could have done more. I think Trump had pretty much made his mind up a long time ago. And then also, we'll find out what it's like to travel in style and slowly on a railway. The last time I took a long-distance railway trip in South Africa, I think I was still a student, and I used to travel by rail from Joburg to Makanda. John, did you ever do long-distance rail in South Africa?
Yeah, no, I did. Not very often, but absolutely, if I had to say a favorite form of travel, that would be it.
If I had the time, if Shosholo Zamail, come on, was working properly and reliably, be very, very keen to do it again. Stephen Curtis, EWN, Slow Coach, Mail.
Thanks very much, Stephen Curtis. Let's get the very latest eyewitness news now with Mbali Dlamini, right here on 702 Drive.
Thanks, John. Good afternoon. It's the breaking news this hour. More than 1,000 illegal miners have been arrested at a mine in Barberton in Mpumalanga this afternoon in what police have described as a massive clampdown operation by law enforcement and mine security. The illegal miners were arrested during Operation Valumkoti in a shaft at the Sheba gold mine. Police say they've been closing in on the Zamazamas since the start of this week. Nogukahanyam Dambo has the details.
Police say the illegal miners have continuously frustrated operations at the Sheba mines, which are part of the historic Barberton Mines complex. Mpumalanga police spokesperson Donald Mdluli says Operation Valumkoti cut off supplies to the illegal miners, forcing them out of the shaft, similar to the Operation Valumkoti run in Stilfontein.
So the operation is continuing, and we are so grateful. The Acting Provincial Commissioner of the SAPS in Mpumalanga, Major General Dr. Zaf Mukwana, has uploaded the team, this joint or collaborative effort which has resulted in this breakthrough.
He says the number of illegal miners could still surpass 1,000, with more Zamazamas expected to emerge in the coming hours. Earlier this year, mine management raised concerns about the impact of rampant gold theft on operations at the mine. Nogukahanyam Dambo, Eyewitness News.
The Constitutional Court has set aside 5 appointments to the Commission of Gender Equality today, including its chairperson and her deputy. Although the appointments were made more than 2 years ago, the court ruled it could not allow the appointments to stand given the flawed process followed during the Parliament's public participation process. Parliament has now been given a year to restart this process. Lindsay Dentlinger has more.
In 2022, Corruption Watch challenged the process by the Portfolio Committee on Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities for inviting public comment on the shortlisted candidates to serve as commissioners on the Commission for Gender Equality. The watchdog complained that 14 days was not enough time to make submissions, which were limited by length and could only be submitted online. The committee also refused to publish detailed information from candidates' CVs, such as their work experience, citing the Protection of Personal Information Act. But the Constitutional Court says this interpretation of the Act was incorrect and rendered the committee's conduct unreasonable. The court said although Parliament's failures were procedural, with no suggestion that the commissioners don't meet the criteria for appointment, the public interest in a lawful appointment process outweighs the personal interests of the commissioners. The commissioners could thus have their terms cut short within the next 12 months once a new process has been carried out. Lindsay Dentlinger, Eyewitness News, Parliament.
The ANC has called for an independent investigation into the alleged choking of EFF councillor Mzubanzi Dambuza during a Cape Town council meeting this week. Dambuza has laid a criminal complaint after allegedly being choked by a security officer when he refused to leave the council chambers. Western Cape Police have confirmed an investigation is underway, but no arrests have been made. Carlo Peterson has more.
ANC caucus spokesperson Judy Ann Stevens says the party condemns any use of excessive force in council. Stevens says elected councillors must be able to engage robustly yet safely in council meetings.
The Speaker opened the door for disorder by selectively applying the rules to the one side of the chambers by naming only opposition councillors, but DA councillors can do as they please.
Stevens says an independent and transparent inquiry must be launched while the city has indicated the matter is being reviewed. Carlo Peterson, Eyewitness News.
And France is set to suspend its program to receive Palestinians from Gaza. All who have entered the country will now undergo a second screening as the country investigates the circumstances behind how a student accused of sharing anti-Semitic posts was allowed into the country. Officials now say the female student will have to leave France after her accreditation was revoked over her problematic online posts. The student allegedly arrived in France on the 11th of July on a scholarship based on academic excellence after undergoing security checks. A partly cloudy Saturday in store for Gauteng tomorrow. Lows of between 2 and 6 degrees and highs of between 16 and 18.
Cederberg, Pretoria, that's driving through Mountain View, heading towards Soshanguve. Accident scene on the R18 northbound at the hairpin bend, causing more than an hour delay. That's all the way from Eskiam Pahlele. As a result, also leaving the Pretoria CBD, you can expect heavy delays on Eskiam Pahlele. That's between Van der Hof and Lavender. Still in Pretoria, Centurion, traffic pressure, N1 North from John Foster all the way to the R21 Flying Saucer interchange.
A top story in EWN, more than 1,000 illegal miners have been arrested at a mine in Barberton in Mpumalanga in what police have described as a massive clampdown operation by law enforcement as well as mine security.
Clement Maniatella.
Weekday mornings,
9 to 12.
9 to 12.
You are suggesting that there must be accountability on the part of Hamas, which I agree with. But are we suggesting then that Israel just move on when they have killed innocent children and women in Gaza, thousands of them?
Well, right now the question is how do we put a stop to the situation? And yes, of course, in an ideal world, we would love to see accountability. But right now we have to make the humanitarian situation change on the ground.
You agree, though, that there must be accountability. Israel must be held accountable for having conducted
a political solution first. The decision by all these countries that I mentioned is about a political solution.
And what if Israel doesn't even agree with that?
I have never said that it would be an easy path.
Ambassador David Martino.
Clements Maniatella.
9 to 12 on 702.
At the heart of global conversations shaping the future, Africa's voice matters more than ever. As Africa's largest bank by assets and lead sponsor of the B20 Summit, Standard Bank Group is proud to spotlight the continent's growth, partnerships and potential on the world stage. Through informed dialogue and powerful partnerships, Standard Bank is driving sustainable growth where it matters most. Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider.
So we did a thing, a full commitment kind of thing. We've partnered with Sixt to bring Worldwide to your doorstep. So you see how that's a serious thing, because that's what you deserve. We know you're the GOAT, so premium it is. Premium service, premium vehicles, premium you, premium us. Sani Sixt is all about adding extra to ordinary. Extra reach, extra countries, so you can be extra premium worldwide. Be the greatest of all time and rent Sani Sixt.
When you're uploading massive files, does it really matter what your internet's download speed is? With business class internet, you get a connection that's as fast going up as it is down. Your company deserves business class internet, because just reboot the router isn't a business strategy. Find reliability at vodacombusiness.co.za. Together, let's build the extraordinary. Further together. Vodacom Business.
702 and Corporates That Care with Hirsch's are talking about Hirsch's involvement in the Claire Ellis Brown Preschool.
So the Claire's Brown School is just the most beautiful little school. This wonderful teacher came through called Sandra McLaren. She said to me something which I don't know if I should have done, but I did, was come through and visit the school. And the school had a beautiful garden, and growing up in a flat, you didn't have a garden. These little kids that live in the area now have somewhere to go and play, which just seems so special. So I thought, how can we get involved with that? And one of the things I found out was they're looking at their books. Their rates were like through the roof, like 6,000 Rand a month in rates, which was just crazy. So after finding people to speak to at the city council and irritating them for months and months, we got the rate reduced to 100 Rand a year and backdated 10 years.
Wow.
And I thought, geez, we can make it a little bit of a difference here, which was awesome. Then we started fixing up the school and painting and putting new kitchens and finding food for the kids. And we've been doing that for over 20 years.
Hirsch's, proud to help grow bright futures, one child at a time. Learn more at hirsches.co.za. 702. Let's walk the talk.
EWN Sport.
MTN 8 quarterfinals this weekend. Tolakele Mganga has the latest and some other stories as well. Good afternoon.
Afternoon, John. And that action will kick off the local football season. Skokune United will take on TS Galaxy, while defending champions Orlando Pirates are up against Polokwane City at a sold-out Orlando Stadium, which will kick off the action at 3 p.m. It's the start of a new era for the Buccaneers, with new coach Adeslam Modu taking charge of his first official game, while Captain Nkosinathi Sibisi has spoken about how their 9 new signings are gelling.
They do bring a fresh energy, and I think it's needed sometimes. There's no time to be complacent. It's not just any players, it's quality players to add value and to add to what we've been doing. So for us, it's just getting the balance right of the guys who've done it and the guys who are still looking to do it. So for us, I think that's where we must try and get it right.
Mamelodi Sundowns will be up against Richards Bay on Sunday. They've been relatively quiet in the window, adding only Fawaz Bessedine, and Keanu Capido is expecting big things from him.
First is international player, like most players at Mamelodi Sundowns are also international players, they know each other. But for his qualities coming into Mamelodi Sundowns, it adds much more value also, competition-wise as well. So we feel like he's a good player, he has the qualities to make it at Mamelodi Sundowns. He's a good person as well, on and off the field.
Newcastle United have rejected an opening offer from Liverpool for striker Alexander Isak, with the bid falling short of their £150 million valuation. Isak was left out of the squad for their pre-season tour of Asia as he wants to explore a move away. That's despite the club qualifying for this season's UEFA Champions League. Switching over to rugby, where Andy Farrell is targeting an 80-minute performance in the British and Irish Lions' third test against the Wallabies. They've already won the series, a first triumph in 12 years, while Tad Furlong will make a historic 9th consecutive Lions appearance.
It's been well documented how much he loves playing for the Lions, but also in the sense that over the last year or 18 months, continuity of his game and fitness, etc. It just so always happens that when this comes around, how much it means to him to get himself in the right frame of mind to be able to do what he's done. And it isn't just the performances that has been through the roof, it's also his manner on a Lions tour as well.
And at the Oval, India were all out for 224 in their first innings on day 2 of the 5th and deciding test against England. In response, the home side are 242 for the loss of 8, but the match is currently being delayed by rain. At the crease was Harry Book on 48 alongside Josh Tang on 0. Tolakele Mganga, Eyewitness News Sport.
EWN Traffic.
7:02 Drive. Right, let's bring you the very latest traffic news. It's currently 17 minutes to 6, so it's busy, especially on the R80, north-south.
That is northbound, John, heading towards Soshanguve, Acacia. There's an accident scene there near the Hairpin Bend, and this is causing about an hour delay all the way from Eskiam Pahlele. As a result, also leaving the Pretoria CBD, there's bumper-to-bumper traffic on Eskiam Pahlele between Van der Hof and Lavender Road. So please allow for extra traveling time or just avoid that route at all costs. In Centurion, there's traffic pressure as well. This is on the N1 northbound between John Foster and the R21 Flying Saucer interchange. Driving through Alex, you can still expect about a 20-minute delay. N3 south between Marlborough Drive and Van Buren. Kempton Park, also about a 30-minute delay. That's heading towards Tembisa. R21 northbound between the R25, R24 merge and Pomona Road. Indianville, traffic is looking much better heading into Bedford View. Nothing really to worry about them. Otherwise, in the south, there's an accident scene. This is in El Dorado Park, N12 westbound before the Klip Rivier Drive. The Klip Spruit Valley Drive. That's causing about a 30-minute delay all the way from the Golden Highway. If you come across any other traffic issues, please SMS us on 31702. We are also on X at EWN Traffic.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Still to come on 7:02 Drive, we'll be talking to Paul Stubbs. You know his voice, covering rugby at every single level in South Africa, the voice of Test rugby in the first part of the Springboks season this year. But we don't know what his favourite song is. He's got a book that has inspired him, and of course we'll talk food. A song, and a book and a dish still to come on 7:02 Drive.
Mzansi, have you bought your Powerball ticket for the staggering 113 million rand estimated jackpot this Friday? Walala wasala. Play Powerball for the estimated 113 million rand jackpot today for your chance at winning life-changing millions. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *7529 hash for USSD. Panda, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years old to play responsibly. E2 is a proud operator of the National Lottery.
Okay, it's time. An employee review of my FNB Gold Business account. Okay. You give me 10 free transactions a month, and you even help me pay my banking fees using eBucks. Batung, unlocking more cash from my salon. Hey. No other card does this. You reward me so much, I want to reward you.
The FNB Gold Business account. No other card works harder for your business because your cash flow is worth it. FNB, help changes everything. TCs and earn rules apply. FNB, a division of First Rand Bank Limited, an authorized FSP and credit provider.
It's the final days of the Dial-A-Bed annual super sale with up to 33% off. Don't miss out on SA's best bed deals. The Sealy Celebration Queen Set is now only $8,999, and the 40 Winks Active Zone Queen Set is reduced to $11,999. Plus, get next day delivery on our best sellers. Dial-A-Bed. Sleep for life.
Every business begins with heart, but it thrives with support. And no one backs Gauteng's dreamers and doers like 702, Yoko, and you. Gauteng's greatest awards with 702 and Yoko are back to recognize and celebrate the local entrepreneurs making life better. From your favorite coffee spot to the baker who knows your name. From the salon that raised generations to the bold newcomer raising the bar. Just think of the business that made you feel seen. Now's your chance to say, I see you. I see you. Go to primemediaplus.com to view the categories and make your nomination. Because this province isn't just the hub of business, it's the home of excellence. And excellence deserves your applause. Gauteng's greatest awards with 702, powered by Yoko. Let Yoko Counter fuel your business to greatness. Go to yoko.com to explore the new point of sale solution, saving hundreds of businesses time and money.
A song, a book, and a dish.
On 702.
13 minutes now to 6 o'clock. We do it every Friday. My guest today on A Song, a Book, and a Dish is in many of your living rooms. Certainly every Saturday, sometimes on Friday nights, the occasional Sunday, and once in a while midweek. And when he's in your living room, he says and does things like this.
There it is again.
There it is again. Swat ball. Oh, baby! It's an absolute classic. He sent him to the shops for bread and milk. Rah! Swat boy.
Paul Stubbs, a very good afternoon to you and welcome to 702. He sent him to the shops for bread and milk. Tell us where that came from. Good afternoon and welcome.
The basics, John, the basics. Welcome. Thank you very much for the warm welcome. It's very good to be here with you. You put a smile on my face, remembering that wonderful day on a Monday evening.
Oh,
how are you?
Yeah, doing well, thanks. So I didn't see that. Was that varsity rugby, and was it an extravagant dummy that sent the defender the wrong way?
Yes, it was the number 9, and he sold the dummy, a real classic one. Picked it up from the base, his opposite 9, followed the pass, and he just flopped over. And I happened to be doing commentary on my own that day,
Yes.
so I'd said a lot of words, and my mind was just in flow state, so I enjoyed it.
Bread and milk, indeed. Tell me this. I mean, people maybe because I did commentary myself many years ago, and the level of your preparation must be quite substantial. I mean, when you're getting ready for a big game, for it all to sound easy, presumably you have to do a whole lot of stuff that actually isn't.
Oh my gosh, yeah. The preparation is, sometimes it gets to your head because you're writing down stuff that you're 99% sure won't come up during the game, but
Right.
you've got to make sure that you have every contingency in place and to respect all of the players that are going out there that have spent their whole lives building towards, sometimes being at the Springbok level. You need to respect the effort that they've put in and put the effort in yourself. And the preparation is always there, but it's always preferable not to use it so that can give the game space to breathe. And when it's a good game, especially,
Yeah.
you don't have to bring any of that stuff up.
And when there's a pile of, let's say, 11 players all on top of each other, a mix of green and gold jerseys and black ones or red ones, whichever it might be, whichever team it might be that we're playing, how come you always seem to know who's on the bottom?
I try my best to keep my eyes locked on the action that's on screen, or you can cheat, look off the screen and look at the field and anticipate who's going to be picking it up next. But those are the soft skills you learn over time, I guess. And every once in a while, you don't know who it is, and then it's very important not to guess.
Yes.
Yeah, to assume, as the old saying goes, makes a ... of you and me.
Yeah. Paul, tell us, I mean, you got into this, you entered a nationwide talent search. SuperSport did it. When you did this way back in 2017, so 8 years ago, you were doing music at the same time. So do you think that you went into this not desperate for it to happen? Or was this a dream that you were very, very keen to fulfill?
Oh my gosh, it was... I was desperate for it to happen at the time, because I was ready to change direction in my life from what was a very action-heavy and party-heavy lifestyle. I wanted to find a new path, and the opportunity to enter that talent competition came around at the perfect time. So I always say, usually to myself, that this job saved me. Saved my life, put my life on a new direction, and used all the skills that I'd built up over the years of being an onstage performer, my microphone skills, and my love for the game of rugby. And it just so happened to be a serendipitous meeting of all of those kind of, intersecting lines, and I was in the right place at the right time. Almost walked away so many times from that audition,
Yes.
but I stayed there, and I'm so grateful that I did.
So let's go back in time. First 6 years of your life in New York, you're in the United States because your mom, Dr. Nomso Ngodongwana, and your late dad, John Derek Stubbs, a very prominent figure in the Anglican Church in South Africa, moved to the United States because under the apartheid laws, their relationship and then their marriage was constituted criminal conduct. And then you come to Cape Town, you go to Bishop's Primary. Was rugby and sport a new kid in a new environment a substantial anchor in your life, or did you just play sport because it was fun?
Wow, I can see that you did do commentary because your research is on point, John. No, there was.
Thank you.
It was exactly as you say. Initially, the first thing you said, it was something that made me feel so comfortable in what was an uncomfortable and changing environment. In '94 is when we arrived, and I started going to school at Bishop's, courtesy of my father being in the Anglican church. We were able to afford those school fees, but I was entering into kind of racial, socio-political landscape where everybody else was young and growing up just like me, but they had parents who had been living through apartheid. And to see a kid of color, and especially a kid of mixed race, it was a place where I was very much accepted by many people. Not to say that I was uncomfortable at all. Made wonderful friends, but at the same time, there was always an element of difference and separation that you felt. You could feel that sense of difference, and at that age, it was very difficult for me to deal with, having come from when I was in New York and feeling like I was fully just immersed in my lifestyle. So when the game of rugby came around from Standard 1, as it was then, it was such a place where all of the boundaries fell away, and the scales fell from your eyes, and you were able to. There was no time for any difference to be noticed. It was you together with your friends. And there was no question about what needed to be done. We were executing and we were working together. And I suppose it was a place of peace. And I never thought that when I finished school and I stopped playing, that it would come back into my life in such a way. I always remained a fan, but I never dreamt of the chance to commentate. But yeah, it was a real oasis for me,
So let's go to the Stubbs dinner table. Your favorite dish is apple pie with vanilla bean custard or ice cream. And if I imagine my own life and project it onto yours, what vegetables did you have to eat in order to qualify for the apple pie?
All of the veg. Oh, my mother was.
All of them. Sounds like my life indeed. Your mom was strict on veg, was she?
She was. And at the time you were like, oh my gosh, so much veg. And I was very hungry for meat at that time. And there was always meat involved in our meal. There had to be a meat element. But my mother really prepared vegetables well. And she worked in the garden as well as being a doctor, a multi-talented woman.
Yes.
And it served me well in my adult life, because now I'm a vegetarian at this point in time, and I have been for 8 years. Yeah. So thank goodness that she introduced me to some of those.
So
but
now
the apple pie and the custard. Yeah.
So you now qualify for limitless apple pie. Of course, you do anyway as an adult. Older brother, older sister. I think your sister older than your brother. But either way, it must have been a very interesting dinner table, because if we look at your late father, he played a significant role in education in the Anglican Church, a close associate, as I understand it, of Archbishop Desmond Tutu. Dinner table conversation, firstly, did you all gather? Was that something that was important to your folks and your family? And if so, what was the chat?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Always around the dinner table. And what was the chat? Always directed by my father. He didn't let us venture into, especially as we grew older, more, objectionable topics, as we got into hip hop and such things, and, had, bad words and stuff. It's like none of that was accepted in the home. But it was always just, catching up with each other's day, and through the hard and the easy times, it was, there was a time my mother stopped working as a pharmacist to study to become a doctor while we were going to school, which created a whole new dynamic in the household, and we were just making it happen and scraping by. So, there were happy days and tense days.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was just looking back, obviously, you cherish those moments together as a family, especially so when we moved to Cape Town and we were staying in Zonnebloem at an amazing house owned by the church, and just, forging our way into this new life. And looking back, of course, being a child, I was there, kicking up a fuss, and you regret a lot of things Like, why was I so snotty? Sometimes like, I don't want to.
You and a million other young people looking back on that. We're going to play in your music here, Paul. Your book that you chose, I Write What I Like, Steve Biko. We're not going to get a chance to talk about that. But with your rap and your hip-hop and so on, you've chosen a classic from 1964, Sam Cooke. Tell us why.
Times change, and a change is going to come, as Sam Cooke says. I had 100 possible hip-hop songs that I could have chosen for that song. You had me up late into the night, scratching my head over
Oh,
this
good,
one.
good.
More
Homework.
than anything else, yeah. Yeah. So, there's many hip-hop songs that kind of defined me, that inspired me to go down the musical path. But I got into, more adult themes of music as I've grown up, and this song has become such a feature in my life, and it's brought me a lot of peace in times when there were rough seas, and I wasn't sure which direction my life was heading in.
Well,
Sam Cooke was there for me.
Well, it's a wonderful song, and thank you for being here with us, Paul Stubbs, and thank you for the great pleasure you're giving people as you share the wonders of South African rugby with us every weekend on SuperSport. Thanks for giving us your time today.
John, I appreciate it so much. And 30 years of SuperSport, by the way. It's been a wonderful journey. I'm glad to be a part of it. All the amazing sporting things that we've seen on that channel, to be commentating on SuperSport now, from watching the 95 World Cup and getting into the game, to being a part of Springbok Broadcasts, and now being on John Perlman's Drive Time.
Thank you so much for joining us, Sam Cooke.
A long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. Then I go to my brother and I say, brother, help me please.
This has been a week of 702 Drive with me, John Perlman, Karabo Malapile, Jonathan Fairburn, and Rifue Litsua, producers of the show. Have a great weekend.
Back down on my knees. Lord, there've been times that I thought.
And now, The Money Show.
With Stephen Grootes, live on 92.7 and 106 FM. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
And DSTV channel 856.
The Money Show with Stephen Grootes is brought to you by Absa CIB, honoured as the best bank for ESG in Africa and South Africa by Euro Money Awards for Excellence 2025. Good evening on your Money Show tonight. How Trump's new tariffs will affect the company you work for, and how Omnia plans to cope. Shane Naidu on the impact of our economy, and Adrian Saville on how global trade could, hopefully, rewire itself. Also tonight, the brutal Biz Blitz and the luxury of life in the slow coach. All of that to come, but first, the very latest Eyewitness News.
Good evening, I'm Maki Malapo. We begin in Mpumalanga, where more than 1,000 illegal miners have been arrested at a mine in Barberton this afternoon in what police have described as a massive clampdown operation by law enforcement and mine security. The illegal miners were arrested during Operation Valumkoti in a shaft at the Sheba Gold Mine. Police say they've been closing in on the Zamazamas since the start of the week. Nogukanya Mtambo has the details.
Police say the illegal miners have continuously frustrated operations at the Sheba mines, which are part of the historic Barberton Mines complex. Mpumalanga police spokesperson Donald Mdluli says Operation Valumkoti cut off supplies to the illegal